I've got 7 o'clock, so why don't we get started? I think everybody's got a mic check. Good on that? Okay, Denise, can you make sure yours and Al's? Okay, good.
I have that.
All right, got the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call when you're ready, Lois.
Slopsima.
Here.
Jacobson.
Here.
DeYoung.
Here.
Robel.
Here.
Keaton.
Here.
Peltonen. Here. Valmuth.
Here. All right, the next thing we have is setting and adjusting the meeting agenda. I have a couple things here. First of all, I handed you guys out all a copy of the email I sent earlier this week. You've got this issue. I'm sorry, was there a question?
Yeah, there's no sound on Zoom supposedly.
No sound on Zoom. We need to do something.
Unmuted.
There's sound now, but it's very hard to hear.
Okay, we'll pull this closer. Okay, is that better, Connie? Connie, can you?
It
hear
is
now?
better.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
So I'd like to add under new business, the information that I emailed earlier this week to everybody about we need to have a discussion regarding PC representation on the Zoning Board of Appeals. So I believe we can add that under item 12, new business. Is everybody in agreement that we can do that? Any concerns? Okay, so we'll add that in. Next, I have just a small update. We have 2 special guests today. We have Dan Wagner from MDOT to talk about the M72 corridor and 5-year plan. We've got him right after or right at the start of unfinished business, 11A. I don't believe we can move him up any sooner. But I would like to move up Scott McLean, who's got the new zoning map. So I'd rather have those 2 come in first for unfinished business, and that would slide the master plan draft discussion just down 1 spot. Does anybody have any concerns with doing that? So we can let the guests do their business because the other items might be lengthy. Any concerns? Okay, that's what we will do. Okay, declaration of conflict of interest. Does anybody have a conflict of interest regarding the content of today's meeting? Anybody?
No.
No.
Okay. No conflict of interest. We'll move on. We've got public comment. So this is general public comment at this point. Any person shall be permitted to address the meeting of the PC. Public comments shall be carried out in accordance with the following rules and procedures. Comments shall be directed to the PC with questions to the chair. Any person wishing to address this PC shall speak from the lectern or use the raise hand feature on Zoom, and please state your name and address. Persons may address the PC on matters that are relevant to the township planning and zoning issues, and no person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same manner, excluding the time needed to answer a PC member's question. And you are limited to 3 minutes. I have one other comment to remind people regarding the public hearing. There is a separate public comment section within that. So that's just for your information. So do we have anybody in the hall that would like to make a public comment? Okay, come on up, Kim.
Hi there. It's been a while since I've seen all you guys. I wanted to commend you on everything you've been able to get done. It's amazing how much smoother the process goes when you have help. So it does make a difference. I was able to participate by Zoom the other day and provide some comments on the master plan. But I know how hard it is to process things like that. I have not had an opportunity to thoroughly cross-reference my notes with, I know some updates have already been done, but I did go ahead and create a written copy of my thoughts and ideas on the master plan. And I just wanted to provide them to you to go through outside of the meeting, obviously, just to cross-reference and see if it gets you thinking about any of the other fine tuning as you work towards completing the master plan process. So. Have a copy for Lois without a staple.
So the new master plan is online. It would be very helpful if you would take a look at that and let us know if there are items that you still think need work.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I didn't see it in the packet, so,
Yeah, it was posted separately online under the planning commission because of the size of it.
Thank you.
and I did make an extra one for you, Randy, hopefully that'll work.
Yeah.
I would also ask that they be, included in the meeting minutes of the meeting, for reference, if anybody else wants to know. So if anybody in the audience or anyone else wants to reference, the notes that I had. Thank you.
Yep, and just to answer that, I think we put those in the next packet. It's the process we use for that.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, anybody else in the hall? Okay, then we can move on to Zoom.
Nobody on Zoom?
I don't see any hands on Zoom. Okay, the next, what we will do is move on to the public hearing. So I have 7:06 PM. We will open the public hearing. I think it was already mentioned, we have a sign-in sheet back there that's very helpful in case you make a comment and we need to follow up with the person for any reason. It's very helpful if you sign in on the sign-in sheet. The public hearing was published on May the 19th, 2024 in the Grand Traverse Record Eagle. And mailings were sent out to residents within 300 feet on May 17th, 2024. The purpose of this public hearing is to review the special use permit for a major home occupation at 10-890 Monroe Road. So the process that we will follow is we will do a project overview by our zoning administrator. Then we will have the applicant discuss about their project and give an overview and answer any questions. And after that, there will be a public comment period. Any questions? All right, we may begin with Deb.
Hi, everyone. Scott Trumbull has applied for a special land use permit to process mustard in his hoop house, his hoop building that's there. He is located on Monroe Road, just south of Gay. He's in the Ag District. It's part of the zoning ordinance that he can have a major home occupation. He did do a write-up, told a little story about his past and how this kind of evolved. Everything that he's doing is accepted within the township based on Article 25-.21 under the special use permit application and under home occupation, Article 37, Section 37.40. So I think I included that in your packets when I put your presentations together. The lot width meets all the requirements. All his fees have been paid. And it wasn't anything unusual or unique. Everything that he's doing is going to be inside his structure. I think he's kind of taken this business on from someone that was doing it in Traverse City. But I will defer to Mr. Trumbull and let him explain what he plans to do. But from a zoning standpoint, he is meeting all the requirements within your zoning ordinance. Thanks.
Hi, Scott Trumbull. Zach Hunter and myself, we're going to be starting a mustard and sauces business in the accessory building at my house. The individual that was running this business, it was originally purchased from something you might know, Beck's, Old Beck's in Elk Rapids.
Mhm.
That moved hands a couple times. It was in Traverse City most recently off Cass Road. And the individual became ill and could no longer do it anymore. So we purchased all the assets from him. They're currently in a temporary container next to the barn right now, which it'll be gone once we get the approval to build in there. So, yeah. You have any questions for us?
Go ahead, Denise.
Uh, J-
Your
okay.
mic, yeah.
Thank you. As a reminder, when I was looking over your application at the bottom of page, it says page 1, your establishment, and you applied for MDARD use. It said that review requested water supply, on-site sanitary, sewage, processing, wastewater. Was there a report that went with that, you received back from them, from the health department or anybody?
Yeah, so we're gonna be working with MDARD, and then, because it's a state, deal, the regulating body for wastewater is Eagle, and we just received approval for that. So I don't have that with me, but I could supply that.
That would be one of the conditions. And then that would be for the wastewater.
That's
That
for
would be
wastewater.
septic. And then what about your well inspection?
So well inspection, once we have the building built inside of the existing building.
Right. Yeah, I
Well-
guess I need to speak in the mic.
Yeah, so once we have the building built and all the faucets in there, that's when we'll get that the well water tested. So currently it'll be the same wellhead that's used in the house currently,
Mhm.
and then we'll just get that water tested for the use.
And your septic system, will it be independent of your home or is it going to be one and the same?
So sewage will be using the same septic as the house. And then that's already been approved by Grand Traverse County.
Mhm.
And then the wastewater from the facility, which is very minimal, is approved by Eagle, and that's a underground discharge.
Mhm. Okay. It doesn't go through your septic?
That won't go to septic,
Oh,
correct?
okay.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
So is that because so why is that? I
Yeah,
guess I'm
so
not familiar with.
this, I wasn't either. So, what was it? Okay, then the mustard seed
Mhm.
is like an antibiotic, so it'd be an
Yeah.
antimicrobial in the septic system, which would kill the
But-
way a septic system works. So they wanted it completely separate and then a different discharge.
So you'll be washing the seed and then
We want,
discharging that water,
yeah, so this is just basically cleanup from.
or even
from-
clean up of
From
processing
processing
equipment. Okay.
the seed, yeah.
So does that mean you have to put in a field?
We already had a field in there and they, Eagle approved that field.
Okay. All right.
I have more questions if,
Yeah.
But-
Go ahead.
okay. When I was looking at, when I was looking at the diagram of your building and the doors to the kitchen are an interior door and it seems like it would be better to have a food processing with an exterior door unless you're not planning on putting any vehicles inside your building, because when I went in there, the smell of gas fumes was overwhelming. And that if that gets in the food, that will, give it a distinct
Yeah,
taste.
there's a regulation stating that you can't have any exterior door opening into the kitchen. So the kitchen itself will be completely sealed with, outside doors that seal upon closing.
Mm.
So no air will be shared inside of that kitchen.
Is this a doorway, a double door
There'll be a double door to get, pallets out of that,
in and out of the
kitchen
kitchen?
area.
And the ventilation of,
So the ventilation, there'll be no air shared between the two.
Mhm.
So it'll just be, using like a mini split that'll come into the kitchen instead of any air transfer between the two.
Denise, I just want to interject you for just a second. I believe what he has to have is an exterior door. It goes into the building, but he has to have an exterior door there. Is that right?
Yeah, so they're outside doors that
Right.
seal tight,
Right.
but you have to be able to, you can't have an exterior door to the outside entering into the kitchen, because then you can have contamination
But
at
the
that point.
quality of the door is an exterior door. And do these doors have automatic closers on them?
Yeah, they're all required to have automatic closers.
Okay.
Yep,
To help clarify that for you.
thank you.
Thank you.
I had a question on, your hours of operation and noise. Will this be like a noise for the for the neighbors, or are we all good there?
You would think so, but we did test the equipment in the shop off of Cass, and it's a very minimal noise. I can almost guarantee you can't hear it from standing on the outside of the building. Yeah, it's just one big motor.
Okay.
It's a electric motor.
And what about hours?
Hours of operation will just be during the day, so probably 8 to 5, somewhere in that time period.
Does that include drop-offs and pickup as far as deliveries and,
Yeah,
okay.
yes.
I do have another question about, you said you found a local farmer that will be growing your mustard for you.
Yeah, so
can
my
you-
neighbor's Weston Hubble.
Yeah.
He works on Orchard View Farms.
Yeah.
And we've been talking with him, and he's willing to grow some mustard for us. So we're gonna try that out this summer
Mhm.
with a fall harvest.
Okay.
And it doesn't require much area. It's like probably an acre of mustard will produce enough for us to operate for a full year.
Wild mustard is invasive. The tame mustard is pervasive, but still can spread. And it's difficult to harvest from what I was reading, that you need to take some of the blades out of the combine unless they're not using a combine.
I don't know if we've got to that point yet of talking through harvest.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they'll take every precaution possible. We'll probably work with, if I had to guess, probably work with the Sens to harvest.
Okay.
Other questions that people have? Go ahead, Carl.
I think you answered my question. This picture here, that great big trailer isn't there.
It isn't there in that photo, but
Yeah.
it is there currently.
And you're saying it will be moved.
That will be moved.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have all of our equipment that we purchased inside of that right now, just to keep it dry.
Because I was concerned that that might be in the way for fire trucks getting in there or too close to the lot line, but it's gonna be the permanent lane.
Yeah,
It's not gonna be the
not
permanent.
permanent.
Okay.
I just have one question. Are you adding any more kilns beside the two or just the two?
Just 2 kilns in there.
So
And
you-
we,
you
on-
don't-
we really only need 1, but when we bought the business, it came with 2, so we're gonna wire it for 2 kilns. And they're electric kilns, not gas.
Other questions that anybody has?
It doesn't pertain to the SUP in particular, but did you use just out of curiosity, the MSU Innovation Center in doing your research? Did you have any help from them?
So we didn't, but the previous owner did a lot of research with MSU.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Keith, do you have any questions? Like,
No? Good.
okay.
All right,
Any
thank
other
you.
questions you have for us?
Further
No?
questions?
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you. All right, so now we have time for public comment. Any public comment in the hall? Okay, see no hands, so how about public comment on Zoom? Don't see any hands there, and I think we were provided with one letter that was received that, I'm looking for, that's right here. So there was one letter received, I believe not from a township resident, that just says, to whom it may concern regarding the above notice of the special use permit, like to express my view. Haggard's Plumbing and Heating is not opposed to the changes of the property or the request. If the property owner is fortunate enough to have the ability and resources and the time to do this project to improve their existing property, it would only help the economy grow. It would be positive for the local, county, and state to do all we can to improve and promote in any way possible. Okay, so that's that. Any other final comments from anybody? Okay, then I'd like to close the public hearing at 7:21 PM. Okay, so at this point, the PC will discuss your application as far as how we feel about approving it or applying conditions. Okay, so what are your thoughts? Al, you're ready?
Yeah,
to-
I see no opposition to it.
Okay. Anybody else?
No, I think it's just fine. I think he's got all his ducks in a row and it sounds like a great thing to add to our community, so I'm on board.
Okay. Denise?
I would like to have the application from the, including the Eagle report or the health department, to add that to your application as a condition, and otherwise I have no problems.
Copy of it for the records.
Yep.
And this was the report on your wastewater system and your well testing. Is that what you're saying, Denise? Okay. Okay, who else has a comment?
I thought it was great that you were reaching out to the farmers and that you're gonna use their crop, and I enjoyed your story. And I walked around and I thought it was interesting. Good luck.
Okay.
I
Uh.
I did enjoy your greeter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it jumped right in my truck.
Yeah. Slam the door and drive.
I have a bottle of Old Beck's jalapeno mustard in my refrigerator, so I'm looking forward to your products being there.
All right, and I do not have any concerns. I've also consumed Beck's mustard, so it'd be nice to know that it's local. Maybe you can hook up with some of the farm stands around here. All right, so with that, do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make a motion to approve this with the conditions that have already been mentioned.
Yeah, for the Eagle reports on the wastewater and the well, I believe it would be like a recertification of your well through the health department.
I'd second it.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed?
You do, I think
It
you need a
needed
roll
to-
call.
Oh, you
vote,
need a
my
roll call
friend.
for this one. Sorry. Okay, go ahead, Lois. Yep, the conditions are the Eagle report, EGLE report on wastewater disposal from the processing. And I believe it's a health department report on recertifying his well, once he gets everything hooked up. Yes. Yep, to be submitted to the zoning administrator.
Jacobson,
Yes.
Keaton,
Yes.
DeYoung,
Yes.
Robel,
Yes.
Yes.
Peltonen, Vaughan,
Yes.
Slopsima.
Yes. All right, the next item on our agenda is approval of the special meeting minutes from April 18th. That is on page 25 of your packet.
Good
Yeah,
luck.
thank
Good
you.
luck.
All right, so these are the meeting minutes that were for the special meeting we had on the master plan draft review. So does anybody have any corrections or additions?
Make a motion that we, accept these.
Okay, we have a motion from Keith DeYoung to accept the minutes.
I'll
We have a
second it.
Okay, second by Mike. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right, so next up, we have the meeting minutes from the regular meeting on May 1st. That's on page 27. I had one question on these. On page 28, at the very bottom, I saw something I did not recognize. It says tabled items, Article 5 districts, Article 25, and then it also says special use permits, campgrounds. I am not familiar with those notes, so I don't know if it's my unawareness or.
Those are just standard items that were tabled years ago.
It's a to-do list.
It's a to-do list.
Okay, so it sounds,
Priorities that got set aside in waiting for some of the.
okay. I thought that we issued a campground zoning ordinance amendment a couple years ago. But- All right, well,
Never
Oh.
went anywhere, Linda.
okay.
Uh,
Go ahead, Mike.
on that same page, the very second line, like the fourth word from the end, it says he, I think it's supposed to be the.
Which can you,
On page 28,
yep,
the, not
Melnick believes.
He can.
planning, planning the presentation to the PC at June meeting.
Yeah,
At
right there.
the June meeting, I believe.
okay. Any other comments that anybody has on the minutes? All right, so I have a motion for approval of them with that correction that Mike had.
I'd make a motion, we approve the May 1st, minutes with the correction that, Mike had pointed out.
Okay.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. The next thing we have on the agenda is there is a memo in the packet from, under correspondence from the Township of Elk Rapids. It's just a notification that they have adopted their master plan. They provided a link there, et cetera. So I think there's no action required. That's just information for all of us. Moving on to reports and presentations. We have zoning administrator report, Deb Graber.
Yes. I'll let you-
I just got a couple things. I left you, we had Dollar General come in last week and make their presentation. And they were very, on top of things because they got back to me Thursday and Friday. Here's the sign. You guys all got a picture of it. Notice it is not the typical yellow and black.
Looks nice.
Behind it, you will see their revised plans. Where the sign would be is going to be west of the driveway,
Oh, okay.
okay? I believe it's gonna be 75 feet back off the road.
So how's that gonna line up with that huge billboard that's
I,
there?
I'm not sure. I think it's gonna be well below it, depending on how much they bring it up to grade. The sign that they showed, is only going 18 feet high.
Yeah, I saw
And
that.
once they figure out what the grade's gonna be there, they'll probably determine it could go up or down. But but they also sent drawings on where the trees would go. I think if you look at the site plan, they've got it on several of them, but, site plans 5 and 6 have the trees and the boulders showing. Trees and boulders on the north side of the parking lot, and then just the trees along the east property line.
Yeah.
So they were on top of things to get that into us.
So this looks like they added quite a few trees compared to the original plan.
They were gonna put in a fence, and they removed the
right.
fence, instead went with staggered evergreens.
Mhm.
So it made the neighbor to the east a little happier that she wasn't gonna have to stare at a fence.
Okay.
So, and it's less expense, and it's more natural.
Yeah.
And it was considerable amount of tree.
It
Yeah.
is. It looks like it's at least double.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Does anyone have any questions about my zoning report? No, it didn't make it in the packet for some reason, but it's there
Yes,
today.
I apologize for
That's
that.
okay.
We'll
Don't
put
worry
it
about
in
it.
next month's packet.
And if anyone has questions, you can always call me. I'll talk to you anytime. So,
Well, Heidi, this is the market you were talking about.
yeah. That's it. That's what it's gonna be.
See how that works?
So does anyone have any questions, any concerns? Am I good to roll forward with this? Okay,
Yeah.
I have one question. He didn't give us a color of the brick though.
I did not get any brick colors. So
How
if
many
you want me
sayers?
to get brick colors, I will go back to
Please.
and ask for the Sandusky blend of tan and brown.
You
Yes.
can, yeah, you can pull it up, print it.
Well,
Yeah.
I know that, but
He didn't send me anything
he was.
specific
said-
to
He
it.
said he was gonna send what the bricks look like.
So you guys are good with the sign? I will follow up with them on the sign. Of course, the sign's gonna be one of the very last things on the project, so.
Looks good to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, great, thanks.
All right, I do not have a special report for the group tonight, so moving on to Heidi, your township board representative report.
I don't have much of a report because I already gave a report. We didn't have a meeting
Okay,
yet. Yes.
all right.
But I did give them all the updates of where we're at. And I will also take tonight's SUP and the sign and what happened with the other public hearing. And I'll put that in my report from a week from Tuesday, yesterday.
Okay.
How's that? Anybody else want me to add anything else?
I don't think so. All right, Carl, do you have a report from the ZBA?
Yes, I do. I have a letter, from Cheryl Gauss dated June 4th, short letter. So yesterday, local court, circuit court judge Charles Hamlin heard oral arguments in the case of Keep Whitewater Township Rural versus and Vicky Bean versus Whitewater Township. You will remember that this group filed an appeal requesting that your decision to grant a variance to Baggs Partners from the 4-to-1 width to depth ratio be overturned. I want to let you know that Judge Hamlin ruled yesterday that the ZBA followed proper procedures in granting the variance and therefore denied the appeal by the KWTR and B. Your decision on August 24th, 2023 has been affirmed by local circuit court.
Okay, anything else, Carl?
No.
All right, moving right along here. Now we're ready for Dan Wagner. He's here to talk to us about M72, MDOT 5-year plan, and anything else related to the roadway and the master plan.
Good evening. Dan Wagner, Traverse City MDOT office here. I thought maybe I could just kind of talk a little bit about our office and what we do. Your community is very unique in that, you're so defined by a state trunk line here. I'm sure you folks are very aware and differentiate between state roads versus county roads versus city or village streets. But our office is right there on 31, kind of catty corner from Sam's Club there, just south of South Airport. We oversee 7 counties, Leelanau, Benzie, Grand Traverse, Kalkaska, Missaukee, Wexford, and Manistee counties. And any state trunk lines in those counties, M22, M72, US 31, for instance, we basically oversee everything that happens with those roads, whether it be driveway permits, maintenance, road reconstruction projects, safety concerns, traffic signals, things of that nature. All in, it's about 600 miles of roadway. By way of comparison, for a 3-year period, I managed the Leelanau County Road Commission, and they have about 600 miles of county roads. So, kind of interesting. But we have a staff of 21. About half our staff are engineers. The other half, roughly, are technicians. Most of them oversee our construction projects. We have 1 technician who works entirely on permits, and then 2 who assist our design staff on new projects such as reconstruction or heavy maintenance projects. So I was asked to come in because you folks are going through a master plan update primarily, and I did have a chance to look at a draft that you circulated and talked to your consultant planner last week a little bit. You clearly are hitting all the highlights that catch our attention. We certainly would encourage you to highly scrutinize any projects that result in a new driveway on the state roads. Involve our permitting staff. We have a permits engineer and technician. Our permits engineer typically gets involved in projects of a large nature. They do have the ability to require traffic studies, for instance, if they have reason to believe that a project could have some sort of a detrimental impact on the existing infrastructure. One project I guess I could use as a highlight was Chick-fil-A. Came in on 31 there, right there by the mall. Garfield Township required a traffic study as a result of that project. The traffic study concluded that they would not back traffic up onto 31. Lo and behold, when Chick-fil-A opened, it backed up traffic onto 31. And we at MDOT, we don't have badges or guns. We are not an enforcement. I mean, we have no ability other than asking politely to get folks to do what they've committed to do. So we turned to Garfield Township and said, hey, what are you going to do? And they said, we're on top of it. They've already been notified, this and that. So had it not been for Garfield Township very much anticipating and being aware that that project could cause problems, all of us in this community, myself and my other 20 coworkers, we all live here, we work here, our kids go to school here. We would have had to have figured that out. So that was good. I don't see this so much happening around, say, like Grand Traverse County, some of the more rural communities. Sometimes we'll see land divisions kind of slip through. where folks will be approved for land divisions, and then people show up having bought the property to get a driveway permit in an area that's not appropriate for a driveway, for site distance, for instance, primarily what they look at for land divisions. So I just thought I'd mention that. I know they're usually not too popular, but, there have been M72 corridor studies, both east and west of Traverse City. I live in Long Lake Township. I've been on my township board for coming up on 16 years now. When that was done some 20 years ago, there was talk about a service road that would basically parallel 72. Never happened. Not really sure why, but projects have been kind of forgotten about and properties kind of developed somewhat piecemeal. But I think communities are, unfortunately, by the time that they start to realize that they have a problem with access management, it's generally a little too late, so it's good that you folks are already thinking about that, and I saw quite a bit of commentary about that in your draft master plan. As far as any new projects coming up here, everybody's aware we have our big project in downtown Traverse City right now. It's about a $27 million project, close to 30 million by the time you add design fees and right-of-way acquisitions and whatnot. That project is happening this year, and then next year we have another project immediately west of that that's going to start where that one stopped and go into Elmwood Township up to Cherry Bend Road. That's going to be a pretty good sizable project. We also have a pretty major reconstruction project planned for US 31 west of the Chums Corners area, where in 2020 we had a pretty substantial project out there. We're going to pick up where that one stopped and go out into Benzie County a few miles. Looking at putting a roundabout in each of both of those projects, one at the 7222 intersection on the first project I mentioned, and one at the Interlocking Corners location. We really don't have much glamorous going on out in this part of the county coming up in our current 5-year plan. We did get, we applied for and received some safety funds. MDOT has all these different buckets of money that we have access to: maintenance funds, safety funds, operations funds, and our engineers had applied for some competitive safety funds, and they were able to get some. And that's going to result in the construction of a center turn lane on Arnold and Bates roads. It's the good news. The bad news is that project doesn't happen until 2027. So another project I thought I would mention that I'm sure is going to affect everybody that lives on this side of town is we do have a project that's currently in design. We're almost done with the design, but it's not going to be built until 2026, and that's to install a second dual left turn at the 3 Mile Road intersection on 31 by the state park there. I know it's been covered a little bit in the media. You might be aware the state park folks also have been going through a master planning process, and they're interested in maybe doing something a little different with the main entrance to their park. It's become more problematic, particularly people dragging large, slow-moving trailers to get in and out of that facility. And that pedestrian overpass that's there is not ADA compliant and isn't, certainly provides a safe crossing, but it's not a real convenient crossing for, picture your typical camper trying to get from the lakeside of their park to the camping areas, cooler and kids and dogs. And so anyway, they have been evaluating the possibility of maybe removing that pedestrian overpass, relocating their main entrance with that could potentially be signalized, that would provide a safe crossing for both vehicles and pedestrians.
It'd be a pedestrian signal or a light?
It would be a light is what we're looking at now, but it would have a pedestrian potentially. They're still going through their consultant, still going through the evaluation, but it appears that it likely would meet warrants to have a protected pedestrian crossing. So, and that would be on demand. So pretty seasonal use. And then the only large reconstruction project to speak of is a project we actually have down in Manistee. And that's planned for starting in 2027. We're not sure if there's even, that might even get spread over the course of 2 construction years, kind of like we did on the 31 job. We did a little bit of work on the detour job last fall, or the detour route last fall, and then kind of got after it in earnest this spring. So That project, by all appearances, on track, on time, on budget. The plan is to have the east half of that job done by Cherry Festival, and then basically shut that job down for like 2 weeks, and then come back and do the west half, so. Going real good. Elmer's is our contractor on it, you know, they're doing as they always do, you know, they're just doing a great job, so.
Has anyone looked at the safety aspect through our community, like at Skigamon Point, Bags Road?
We're constantly looking, you know, I mean, we very closely monitor, for instance, crash reports, for instance, and unfortunately, that's a way to highlight, you know, if there's something going on. How the new light got put up, you know, that was an area that we knew was a dangerous intersection. And our engineers watching that very closely until it did meet warrants to be able to put a light up. So and we hear it unfortunately too often, you know, what's gonna take, someone's gotta, you know, die before we get a light there. So well, I shouldn't say unfortunately, it's not a subjective process. We have to meet certain guidelines before we can do things like add traffic signals, so.
I was thinking better lighting, not traffic
Well,
signal.
we don't do lighting, so that's actually a township responsibility. So we would highly encourage you to do that. The one area that's kind of weird is, the roundabouts are lit. But so on those projects, they're required to be lit. So MDOT will pay for the erection of those lights, but once they get hit, they seem to be magnetized for intoxicated drivers. And it's up to the local units to pay for them to be replaced, and they pay the power bills on those. So we have, well, more and more of them. And so we've partnered with various different townships, and now there's even Fife Lake has the one down at 131 and 186 that they have to pay for, so that's something I know once in a while, because I pay the bills in my township. Consumers is power provider out where we are. I know on occasion they do have programs where they will provide some sort of incentives. I haven't heard or seen that come through recently, but if you do have some intersections that you feel would be improved by some lighting, might be worth putting a short list together for if and when those opportunities come out.
Dan, I had a question on the driveway permits. If you're gonna exit M72, which U.S. jurisdiction, they have to get a permit from you to do that, don't they?
They do. Unfortunately, once in a while though, we'll have folks will show up to get a permit after they get site plan approval. And so our folks sometimes get put in a bit of an awkward position, because then they're requiring them to do things that might not have been a condition of site plan approval. So it's not really a problem for us. It's more of a problem for the applicant, I guess, you know, because then they feel like, you know, well, I satisfied all the requirements. I got my, you know, I got site plan approval. Well, you get site plan approval from the local unit, but that doesn't have any bearing on our permit to make sure you're getting the
On the exit, yeah.
Right.
So as long as the permits, those permits come from MDOT.
They do.
Did you have something, Denise?
Yes, on M72, what is the state's easement on that, on M72? Is it 100 and?
It varies. So from location to location, you know, we basically have two types of easements. We have what we call a user easement. So when the road systems were established, they said, you know, here, taking over all of these roads, and you'll get 66 feet or, you know, whatever it was. Those ones, we basically have an easement across the property for transportation purposes. So the road, the ditch, you know, guardrail or whatever. In other areas, like where we relocated 72, where the State Department actually went out and acquired property, then we actually own that. But all our right-of-way maps are actually outward facing online. If you just Google up MDOT right-of-way maps, you could go on and look if there was a particular area that was
Yeah.
so, yeah.
As we move forward, do we have room? The reason I'm asking is the access road that you were mentioning, could we plan it on the easement? No?
No, so generally how that happens, like the one I mentioned in Long Lake Township, and I'm
Yeah.
72 on the other side. So there was several, large undeveloped parcels, and so the plan was that, kind of like how a lot of communities do sidewalks, they'll make them build that across their frontage as they're developed. That was kind of the thought, that they would, as they develop, that they would have this access road across the front of those properties. Not to say MDOT wouldn't or couldn't allow something like that in a right of way if we had one large enough, but it would be extremely unusual that we would have enough right of way to be able to accommodate, an access road setback sufficiently from the trunk line, so.
Do you have enough footage for a bike path? Or,
Sometimes, so like right now, the TART folks have been working on an ambitious plan to connect Traverse City to Charlevoix with the trail, and they would like to put that in the US 31 right away. That is a good example of where the right of way varies, not just through that corridor, but parcel to parcel. When property was acquired through there, the language on some of those acquisitions is a little unusual. So some state very specifically about like widening of the highway, we're granting you an easement. So they're having to go through the task of working with the title company to pull all that paperwork and look at every parcel by parcel to ensure that they have legal ability to establish a trail in the highway easement. MDOT did, many years ago, I should say some time ago, did determine that, things such as trail use is consistent with a transportation easement. So, we're kind of the leader of the pack when it came to the development of, I'm sure you probably heard the term or see it in your MTA publications, complete streets. We always try and consider all modes of transportation when we're doing our projects. Unfortunately, the guidance that we follow, the road design manual, for instance, it isn't real specific. It doesn't say like you must include, for instance, a sidewalk if you build a road. So we always try and apply some common sense. And if we're doing a reconstruction project, like the project that's under construction right now, we did a tremendous amount of pedestrian enhancements. Not so much on that one, but the adjacent project, we actually have several additional bus stops that we've incorporated into it. When we have these projects coming, I was just down in Manistee last night talking to them about that project, which isn't going to happen until 2027, to try and get them thinking about things such as trails. If there's some way that we can incorporate features into our project, even if somebody else is paying for them. So there was in the media here a couple weeks ago, TART had got some grant money and they wanted to add something onto our project. So it's not in the state right away. It's on private property. They were able to get easements. They worked out a deal with our contractor to get it built. I'm sure it saved them probably a lot of money to do it while our project was happening. So, we're always trying to look at opportunities to do different things. I think we're quite frequently unfairly criticized about being very vehicle centric. We only think about cars and trucks and, moving through as many and as fast as you can. And that is just not true. Our folks are very conscientious about, trying to figure out a safe way to move people, whether it be in a car, on foot, or on bike or bus, in all our projects. So.
I had a question specifically about, I think those of us that have been here at least 10 years really notice the increased traffic on 72. Like there's a lot more traffic coming from Kalkaska, I think, coming into the area to work in the morning, early in the morning. And then similarly at night, that 4 or 5 o'clock. And I'm very happy that they put some right turn lanes out here on 72 just in the last 2 weeks to help alleviate that, because that was backing way up at the traffic light. But I guess my question, and you mentioned early on about adding a turn lane between Arnold and Bates. I would just say, and this is just past our township line, but the impact of the horse show right there at the Bates Road intersection going northbound. That has, everybody's doing the wrong thing, right? They're driving on the shoulder of the road to get around
Yeah.
the trailers and the cars. So it's both spectators as well as people with their horses. I'm just wondering if there's anything, any thought process. It appears to me from a planning commission standpoint that I know that's Acme Township. It looks like we all missed the boat on what was going to happen. And I know it grew over 20 years, right? But
It's a fantastic example that I wish I would have thought of earlier about where, and I'm trying to throw anybody under the bus, where they did miss the boat. So
yeah.
that project does not front the state road. They did not need to get a permit from us. They did
Oh,
not
because it's off
require-
base.
Right, they did
Yeah.
not, but when they went through local agency review, they did not require a traffic study.
Right.
Or if they did, clearly it needed to be updated as all those additional things were added. And now here we are. So when somebody gets in a crash and a loved one gets hurt or God forbid killed, who are they upset with? They're upset with MDOT because it's our road. We had nothing to do with the development of that property. But now here we are trying to leverage things like safety funds to make additional safety improvements for the grid. So I will say that with, I just saw a graphic yesterday, one of my folks that works out of a region office shared with me something that he put together. He put together just a simple bar chart over the last, say, 10, 12 years, showing what the dollar amount was programmed for versus what that dollar actually bought because of the huge inflationary influences that are disproportionately impacting the construction industry, to show that our buying power has been reduced substantially. So we've essentially been borrowing from our future years to pay for this increase in cost of doing business, and there's no money left. So until and if the formula for generating money for our road systems, the Act 51 that we hear so much about, that and the vehicle registration fees are the two largest contributors towards our transportation funds. There's no talk that I'm aware of in Lansing right now about relooking that. So it's only going to get worse. So we are very purposely changing the way that we're looking at the future. So these projects that I mentioned, the 3 projects I mentioned earlier, the next 7222 project in Traverse City, Graylickville, Elmwood Township, one in the Interlochen area and the one in Manistee. Each one of those projects represents about as much money as we will get region-wide, which is a 21 county area, not the 7 counties that we oversee. So we're going to be looking more and more to just try and maintain the infrastructure that we have rather than having enough money to go make large improvements where we can do things like add pedestrian enhancements, for instance. There's going to be a shift in the way that we're doing things. So we are trying to improve what MDOT calls kind of the operations ability with our infrastructure. So Traverse City had received monies to implement, now there's different names for it, but basically all the traffic signals in the US 31 corridor started at South Airport all the way up to 72, and then from 72 over by like Tom's West Bay all the way to 72 on this side of town. All of those signals have all been integrated, and they all talk to each other essentially. So they're not just simply timed like they used to be back. So they're providing for if in the morning when everybody's coming into town to go to work, those legs stay green longer to provide, but they're also telling the downstream lights that, hey, we're sending more vehicles your way, so you need to do the same. And they're monitoring in real time what's happening out there. So that was the first one on a state trunk line. There are some systems like that in some larger communities, Ann Arbor, Lansing area, but they're not on state roads. That was the first one on a state road system in city. So if you drive through town in the morning or in the evening, well, now's a bad example because we had downtown tore up, but under normal circumstances, most people will agree that you'll get through a lot quicker now because of that. So we are aware that we are seeing more and more traffic volumes. But I really don't think you will see things like adding additional lanes for additional capacity. Unfortunately, it's just going to be more time to get from point A to point B. I guess the only good thing is hopefully it'll slow some folks down, maybe get them off their phones and and allow people to be a little bit safer, so.
Yeah, so is there, do you believe that adding that center turn lane between Bates and Arnold, is that gonna help us at all with the horse problem?
Well, it will, in that it will reduce things like rear end crashes, for instance, because people will have center turn lane and they won't just be stopping in front of somebody that's driving
Right.
55.
Yeah.
60.
Okay, so that will widen it right there. It'll include that intersection.
And that's another good example of where, was asked, are you guys looking at these different intersections? So no secret, we had a very mild winter last year. So we had a pretty good savings in our winter maintenance budget. And so we work with all our partner road agencies. And that's something I forgot to mention earlier. So I mentioned we cover 7 counties. We also have a maintenance contract with 6 of the 7 county road commissions. Everybody but Kalkaska, we have our own maintenance facility in Kalkaska County that takes care of the state roads there.
Mhm.
So the other 6 counties and then 4 cities, Lake City, Manistee, Traverse City, and Cadillac, we have a maintenance contract with them. So those local agencies maintain our roads. So because it was maintenance money, we worked with Grand Traverse County Road Commission, and they actually bid that work out for us to allow us to kind of work a contract through them, through the maintenance funds to put those right turn lanes in. So if it wasn't for that mild winter, they wouldn't be there right now.
Good. Well, I was really glad to see it because I've seen it just back up so bad.
Go ahead, Al.
Had one question. When we get an applicant that's going to be exiting M72, at what point should we ask them, do you have a driveway permit from MDOT? Should it be right at the beginning or?
Yeah, I would definitely, I mean, as soon as you're approached about something, I know a lot of times folks want to come in, have like a pre-application or something. I would very much encourage you to encourage them to get in touch with our folks so that they can do, and quite frankly, it'll make your job that much easier if they say, yep, we met with MDOT. There's a traffic study, they've already reviewed it, they've approved it, we're gonna put a deceleration lane here, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. It just makes everybody's job easier, rather than them getting through your process and then coming to us for a permit and saying, whoa, man, we're not gonna give you a permit on 72, you have access on a county side, road, if it's a corner lot or something like that. Just, can save everybody a little bit of grief.
After you talked about financing, this is probably a pretty moot question, but what would the process be for a township to ask for a deceleration lane on the 72? And I want to tell you the example I'm talking about is Skigmont Point Road, the westbound lane. You have a very long passing lane coming right up that hill. And just at the crest of the hill, the passing lane turns into 1 lane. And then immediately after that, you turn on Skigmont Point Road. And it's not a 90-degree angle turn. You have to turn back even more.
Yeah.
And I know we really haven't had any accidents there yet, but it's gonna happen. And I live on that road, so I make that turn a lot. And another thing I want to mention, I know it's a dead-end road, and it's probably assumed that there's not much traffic on it, but that road is busy. And now Elmer's has a pit on it, the pit's been there forever, but it never at this capacity, never at the amount of trucks in and out of it ever before what we have now. So all the other roads that I can think of that come to 72 have a turn lane by them, or like down here at Oak Lake Road, you guys just added the turn lane, but that particular road is kind of a dangerous spot. So
Yeah.
is there a process for us to go through to ask for that, or how does that work?
But you could ask for anything. It's like I say, I mean, we only have so much money. We do try and spend the money where it's gonna be the most impactful, obviously. We actually have been going back and kind of relooking at some intersect. We have a lot, we have documented, we've definitely observed that a right turn lane, like a deceleration lane, might solve one problem, but it can create others, because it provides an opportunity for a slowing vehicle that's turning to shield somebody looking to turn out onto that road's vision from an ongoing vehicle. So they're just looking at the front of a Ford truck. Oh, there's nobody coming. They turn and bam, they get hit by somebody going 60 miles an hour. It's just driving down the road, minding their own business. So it's usually not that simple, but I know the topography in that particular intersection is very complicated, so
Add the sun, it gets even worse.
Yes, yes, add the sun, it gets even worse. You know, so, but if there's an area that's, you know, that's of concern, and we start to see, you know, an increasing crash pattern, there's things like these safety funds I mentioned earlier that we can try and apply for, and it's kind of a competitive thing, and we've got a pretty good success rate, pretty aggressive when it comes to trying to get money for our area, so, you know, we're always trying to make improvements, but obviously we all have finite resources to.
Other questions? Go ahead, Randy.
Just a couple of follow-up questions. So you said the sequencing for approval should be the MDOT permit first before we would entertain a site plan?
No, I guess I don't, if I said that, I misspoke. I think it's just good that they start talking to us early. You know, I think generally how it normally goes, is that, they would be talking to all the different agencies, like the gentleman that was here earlier, talking about, you know, it's gotta get approved from the health department and, you know, the drain commission, well, not so much them anymore, but, all the different agencies that have influence over it, so that they could, at least when they come to you with the site plan, that they could say, yes, we've met with the engineers at MDOT. We know what they're looking for. We've already done a traffic impact study, and here it is. So it would just help, rather than get all the way through your process and then start with us, particularly if we come at them with some new requirements that's gonna cause them to have to come back to you and say, well, I know we got approved for a site plan with the driveway out 72, but now they're telling us we need to put that on Bates Road. So that we're just trying to avoid rework on everybody's part, so.
We are too, and obviously trying to make sure we're coordinated with you, that the Dollar General, for example, that was just talked about there, they had reached out to you, but I don't think they had a permit yet. Is that right?
Well, they did,
They have it?
yeah,
And they
Okay.
need a traffic study.
yeah.
I guess the second question I had was just on the issue of the corridor plan, and you and I spoke on the phone before you came here. We were talking about how important it is to define where access management might be, and we have a lot of acreage here that's zoned commercial, that if something came in next week, we know an access road may make sense, but
Yeah.
but we don't have anything to, other than just a line on a map that, there's a whole lot more engineering, as you know, to go into that.
Yes, yeah, it's funny, just today I noticed, some new construction going on. US 31 just south of our office in Blair Township, they had several parcels that were developed, and they put an access road in there. And it all feeds down into one area, so.
Or is there any potential funding sources that we can look at to work with MDOT on some sort of advanced plan? So, I mean, when the plans come into the township, it's almost too late, unless there's something.
Yeah, I can't speak specifically to any sort of a funding source, on something like that, but I certainly could reach out to, we actually have a region planner, Heidi Fanoff is her name. She's pretty dialed in when it comes to grants and whatnot, and we have a handful of folks that we've been talking to. Lake City is a community that falls on our footprint. They're dealing with a lot of the same issues a lot of communities are. They have a state trunk line that bisects their community. They want a little downtown, they want people to drive 15 miles an hour, and there's a 35-mile-an-hour state trunk line going right through their community. So, when she sees things that she thinks that might be of interest to them, she certainly puts it on their radar. So, but I don't really personally deal with the grants. Not a real great answer, but maybe, I guess, would be the best I could say.
Well, I think from what we heard at different meetings during our planning process, that's important to try to understand some advanced planning in this, so we don't get, like I said, when the plans come in, it's too late. We can't really say, well, we should talk about an access road when there's nothing on paper, there's nothing.
And we certainly can't require something like an access
No.
road.
I had a question for you, Dan. When an applicant comes in, says, I want to put this project here, and we tell them, okay, you need to go to MDOT and see what it's going to take to get a driveway permit. That's not that long of a process. You have an engineer that comes out, they look at it, they put something down, and then the the applicant knows what he's gonna have to do, or he's pretty darn sure at that point. That process, that isn't but a week, is it?
I mean, depends on the intensity of the development, something like the Dollar General, and I wasn't even aware that they
Mhm.
got a permit from us, because I don't deal with the day-to-day on,
Mhm.
at that level, but, you know, it's pretty straightforward.
To give them a preliminary permit to where they, you know, it's gonna take them a month before they get somebody to get out to look at the driveway permit. They may not want to wait that long, you know, but if they say, I'm gonna do this and I wanna go to MDOT and have them come out and look at it, that's something that you guys will
Yeah.
accommodate them with, I
Yeah,
guess.
and, you know, our two guys that work, and, you know, I give them their cell numbers, I mean, they're right there. I mean, they're there every day, they're in the area, so, it, a experienced developer would be familiar with our process and be able to get through that pretty timely.
Okay,
You know, we add that as a condition to any approval.
yeah.
They don't have it yet, say that.
And it can, and that's probably what would, Keith had a good point there, it'd be conditioned on an MDOT permit.
Yeah, and I'm sure you probably condition all your approvals on, you know, before you get.
But I was just trying to be fair to the applicant too, that, you know, they go, it's quite a process and then they get to the permit and something, you know, so if they can get you guys out there about the same time they're getting out the other people to look at it, they get a preliminary review of what they're gonna need to do.
Yeah, and our guys definitely prefer that. They like to
Mhm.
be part of the process, you know, rather than just, you know, because then folks get defensive, you know, and they want, well, I've got money invested in
Yep.
doing this and I don't want to change it. I gotta, you know, changes to the plan. So, yeah, our guys prefer that, so.
When exiting 72, it wouldn't be bad for us to make that part of our requirements that, you check with MDOT on a driveway permit.
Yeah, for sure.
When you're developing a 5-year plan on your projects, where does that start? How could we get a project that we think might be worthwhile into your queue? And what agencies would we have to work with?
Well, I mean, if there was something that, a lot of times, a lot of questions come to us through the local units and we'll get, generally they kind of start with our traffic and safety engineer, Jessica Carpenter is her name. And so, I'm trying to think of a good example of where we've worked with the local unit. Well, I mentioned last night I was down in Manistee, you know, letting them know that we have a project coming in. So if there's things that you might be interested in doing that we could work cooperatively on to try and happen. But generally, it's not the townships that are kind of driving the train. Well, I guess sometimes this other project I mentioned that we're going to build next year, we're going to pick up on the one we have in downtown Traverse City right now. That's a project, components of that Elmwood Township has been working on. They wanted to have sidewalks through that M22 corridor down there like Apache Trout Grill and that area there. It's, you know, I've walked that with when my kids were little in strollers, and it's not fun. You know, there's the disconnected segments of sidewalk, and so they really wanted to have a sidewalk there, and they were actually looking at one point in time and even doing like a, you know, millage to build the sidewalk at the property owner's expense, because it was such an important thing that the community really wanted to get behind. And there's lots of grant opportunities for things of transportation alternative programs or whatever.
So we don't, when I was thinking of the steps, when you say the local units, I was thinking, do we go through Traverse County Road Commission and then MPO? And then and Networks Northwest and then you, or how do all those agencies tie in together?
That's great. That's a great question. And, you know, the MPO is something that's new to our area, the Metropolitan Planning Organization. We hit the tipping point for the population that required us to form an MPO, and we're going through that right now. I think Whitewater opt to not be
Yeah.
doesn't mean that you don't have any influence over that group. You're not a dues paying member, but you know, it's new. So I mean, it's not a big deal. You could start talking to the road commission, for instance. I mean, they're part of that group. They have a vote with that and say, hey, we think you really need to be putting money in the Bates Road, you know, or whatever. and they can kind of bring that forward. But if you had thoughts specific to M72, you know, or other state roads or whatever that the township felt were a priority, or if you had plans to do something like, one of the things we heard, so there's Manistee Township on the north side of Manistee, there's the city of Manistee, and then there's Filer Township on the south. So we're crossing 3 local unit government boundaries with that project. Manistee Township, they don't know if they want to have sidewalks on one or both sides of the road there. They have no DPW, and just like lights, we don't put lights up, we don't pay for lights, we don't maintain lights, same thing with sidewalks. We'll build them with our projects if we can, but once they're built, they're up to the local units to maintain. So that's something that they're trying to come to grips with. Do we want to spend money to have I think at the end of the day, they will decide that they do. But Filer Township would like to connect their big box stores that are out south of town with downtown. Well, there's no sidewalks there. So where do people walk? They walk down the shoulder of our road. That's not real fun in December. So they're talking about, well, maybe there's an opportunity here to do a pedestrian path. It won't be part of our project, but it would parallel 31. We're gonna be out doing community outreach and getting the pulse of the people. Be a good opportunity for them to do some work as well.
I do have one more question. I'm sorry to keep you so long. On your 5-year project,
all
you,
night.
you have on M72 Kalkaska Road, McNulty Hill Road, 2 carpool lots.
Yeah.
Are you anticipating public transportation going out that far, or a huge increase in road traffic, or what was that based on?
So those are basically just reworking the existing carpool lots that we have in those locations. We do work with transit when if there's areas that they have, we had a carpool lot right down at the 72 and 31 intersection at the Masonic Temple.
Yep.
It's not there anymore. That was on private property, and they decided they didn't want to have that there anymore. So we, through our maintenance money, Grand Traverse County Road Commission came in, removed the parking lot material, put topseed soil or topseed seed mulch on there, topsoil seed and mulch, excuse me. And now it's parking, but we've also been working with Meyer, for instance, in carpool lots, or allowing in some of their locations the ability to use those for carpool lots. So we're just trying to modernize them, make them ADA compliant, put lights in them if they're not lighted for safety reasons. So it's just minor work at our 2 existing lots. It won't be a wholesale change.
Okay, so I'm wondering, any last questions? You have the rest of our agenda.
Thank you all.
All right.
Very
Thank
patient.
you so much for
Good
coming.
chunk of your time tonight. Thank you.
Yep. All right, next we have Scott McLean, and we're gonna talk about the work that he did on the map, which is on the end of your packet, page 48.
If I could just comment real quick for you on the MDOT guy. If you want, because I'm all for having access roads, and you got too many commercial people all with their separate driveways, and it's much safer putting some of them together. The township can control that and put that under the developer to pay for it.
And we just need a plan of how it's gonna be.
Yeah.
Because you won't get MDOT to help you, and it's kind of, but,
Yeah.
yeah, just a little side note. Other than that, I'm wondering, when we're gonna have enough Dollar Generals.
Well, we're actually.
Dollar
We
market,
have a
my
market.
friend.
Oh,
We're
Dollar
having a
Not a
market.
Dollar General?
No.
You guys
Having
are
a
special
market.
then.
We're special.
You are special.
They don't know it yet, but we're special.
So, yeah, pretty straightforward, read through all of those ordinances and amendments after amendment. It was a little bit more involved than I expected to be. There were a lot of them. And what I tried to do was I just kept it like totally black and white. If this is what the amendment said, that's what I put on there. And, now thinking about it, maybe it'd be helpful to you if I were to put together a report, there's some areas where what they have on black and white, I don't think was what they really meant. maybe more of give you a report of some of the intent of some of the places. And there was a good example of that. Like, one of them in section 33, it was amendment 25. Took a section there and put it in R3, but then later on, amendment 37 totally wiped it out. And I'm not sure that that's, is that really what they intended to do? I don't think, like, when a person's writing some of those amendments, I don't think they know what some of the previous amendments are. Randy pointed out to me, for some reason, the highlighting was turned off on
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be
that
nice
on the
is
if-
declaration
sometimes.
area.
It'd be nice if we
But-
were happy like that.
Yeah, I mean, this green area was just, I just had it turned off and I didn't realize that on the copy I sent to you. But, yeah. That's all the recreational area to the south and all the ag, obviously, to the north. And Randy also mentioned maybe getting it plotted with all the land property lines on there. Like on the GIS site, which isn't something I have, but I imagine I could get from the GIS guys at the county level. I do have this on a bigger map if you want to look at it while we're talking, or you guys.
Please.
Vanna White came
Yes.
with me to look
Please.
at the map, so.
Yeah, we need the big map.
Yeah. Don't we have don't we have even somewhere?
I thought maybe there would be one, but yeah. But yeah, plotted it, and then also plotted the page of the more detailed area.
Oh, yeah, that would be,
Yeah.
oh, that'd be excellent.
That's probably of more interest. The other is pretty.
Could you send us that in?
self-explanatory.
Yeah.
Is there an Adobe file that you can send us?
Yeah, is there an email we could pop up on
Yeah.
our computer
Oh, you
right
mean
now?
like right while you're sitting here?
Yeah, it'd be kind of, yeah. Might answer some questions.
I could
for
do
you.
that if you want me to go grab my laptop, if you got a minute.
Yep. Sure.
Yeah, we sure do. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, I think it's on there already.
Can't see that.
Well, yeah, but it's not color coded.
Last
Oh, he
page
doesn't
you
have the
had.
green in it, yeah.
Is there a way to get it on the screen?
He's gonna, well, we'd have to set the computer up or the. You don't even like.
Kind of
And
sideways.
clips.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I got one in my bed. Hold on.
In there?
Here,
Yeah.
here. Here, I got a clip.
No,
Yes.
It's got its own.
Let's figure it out and print.
Yeah.
So Randy, you've had a little bit of time to digest this so far. And I guess somehow I thought I was gonna get a picture that looked similar to this.
That's what I thought I was getting.
I thought I was gonna get this with a list of discrepancies.
I don't want to look at the computer, no.
Yeah.
So, like, what are we, I'm trying to understand what this represents. It looks like he put on the map certain amendments.
Right, so all of the zoning districts before were defined by legal descriptions.
Right.
That was then somehow put onto that map that you have in front of you and some other versions that cropped up here and there. that
Mhm.
I think you had at the previous meeting.
Right.
Our goal here was to make sure that we have the correct boundaries of the zoning districts and took the step of hiring a surveyor to retrace what was here. What's missing is the property lines that need to be added to this drawing so that going forward, we can tell
What zone?
what parcels these areas cover, which I'm not a GIS expert or an AutoCAD jockey, but I believe that's not a difficult thing to do, to add that layer to.
Yeah, that's
this
correct. It's just, yeah, a matter of getting it from them.
From the
This is
county.
all based on their GIS information from way back when they had all the
Okay.
section corners mapped. So,
So taking a quick look-see at this, I'm just eyeballing this. It looks pretty close.
It does.
it is.
I'm just
yeah.
making sure I'm getting what I'm supposed to get out of this. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing I do notice is this funny little white squiggle in section, looks like 32 maybe, here on the far left side of the map, this pink, and then it's got this little white gouge out in it. I don't see that on this one. You see this? I don't know.
I know what you're talking
This
about.
little dude right here,
Yeah.
the
the lower-
funny little shape. And it looks like that's right by, I think this. So it's right by M72. I'm a little confused if it's.
I think it's
south of
between M72 and Old 72.
And Old
That's what
72.
it looks like to me.
Which one are you
So
looking
you
at?
see like amendment 38 and parentheses 3 and amendment 38 parentheses 2. And then this pink section just to the east. So it's
R3.
on the far west side of the township,
In
right above section 5.
Yeah.
Under 32 and above 5, the pink one.
With that
in the
little
Center there.
white hole in it.
It says 40, R3,
Yeah, that,
and then 44.
that's all in ag. Yeah, that's just my note for the stuff that's down below it. Yeah.
But what, I think she's asking, what's the white blotch in the?
Oh, well, at the bottom of the pink, yeah, that's one of those spots where I was saying, I think it was intended to be included. But the way, the black and white, the way it's described, it wasn't. Yeah, that's all left out. So it would still be an ag.
Can you point to where you're talking about?
Here,
Oh,
this PUD was created and, you know, goes around just the PUD boundary. Did not include this here.
Was that intended?
That's what it appears to be, yeah. But,
You think it was intentional or unintentional?
well,
Like an error?
Kim knows.
well, there was a previous.
Sorry, it's hard over here.
Well, there was a previous where they call, that's why I left these notes up here. Previously, the south 28 acres of the east half for amendment 4 was R3. So it's very likely that the intent was that was going to be R3. And then the PUD for just what's shown in pink.
Tim, what did you use chairperson and what do you remember?
Is that okay?
Mhm.
Okay. That is an incomplete PUD. It was approved, but it was never installed or devised. That was the R3 district. And that was the part that was carved out around some existing properties that were not included in the PUD.
So that
So
was down by
historically,
R3.
historically, that whole thing should still be, and I would encourage the PC to put it back to that if it isn't, R3 zoning. In its entirety, in that the PUD that was proposed was put on the books, but it was never made, it was never produced, it was never,
Oh.
it's not in existence, there is no.
So it was never finally approved?
No, they finally approved. They finally approved it, but nothing was ever done.
Nothing was ever built.
The
but
lots
zoning
weren't
was changed.
built,
Okay.
they weren't, yeah.
wasn't even
they put it-
divided.
There was a trend for years of putting things on the books when they were.
Yeah.
Proposed and not when they were finalized. And that is,
Well, what matters,
a
artifact of bad record keeping. Should be all art. The pink and the white in that district,
But
and there is no PUD.
it doesn't matter what they did or didn't do as far as construction. The legislative act was to create that as a PUD though, right?
Yeah, the zoning is PUD. I mean,
Yeah.
it would have to be changed.
Right, so
Yeah.
that's a legislative act to make that a PUD.
I don't think it's, I don't think it's ever finalized. That would take some research. That was on my short list of things to figure out.
The amendment 44 was, even though the PUD. So once amendment 44 was.
Is that in the village district?
My understanding.
Is that in the
Okay, I
village
think,
district?
Well,
Yeah.
we can get in the weeds of this.
I think we're kind of going down a rabbit hole there. I think what we need to do is focus on the big picture. So the big reason we had this work done was to see if we had inconsistencies and to basically upgrade our map, right?
Correct.
To
And,
make sure that we could say that, yes, this is right.
and we do have inconsistencies, so.
Okay, so can we
Map
go
is so
through those?
small.
Sure, what's in 33? In section down here, at the very bottom of the map.
Oh,
section
yeah.
33.
33, yeah.
Yeah, amendment 28 changed that to C1. It's probably another project, maybe that never happened, but that's the triangle cut out by those roads there going through.
Is that on Supply Road?
Supply in Williamsburg?
Supply,
Oh, that was the
Williamsburg,
drunk
and
tank.
Whatever the little dirt road going.
That
into
was
the-
what?
That was the drunk tank. Sorry, I don't know the formal name. It was, put in as a rehab facility.
Oh,
And so they temporarily gave some type of spot zoning as commercial.
Oh,
It's currently school.
17.
Oh,
Was that the Woodland,
I
Woodland
believe-
School?
Yeah, that's Woodland Creek.
I thought that looked about the right
So
spot.
whatever it is, make it something.
Okay, so you're talking the triangle down in section 9.
33.
Instead of 33.
Section,
But I
oh,
thought
this
you
one.
said that's at the intersection
Nine.
of Supply and Williamsburg Road.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know, and then
Oh,
you said
yeah.
17.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's not,
I'm
that's
sorry.
not what the Woodland
No,
School is.
she's-
No.
she's speaking of it. Okay, so
Okay.
why don't we have, our specialist answer the questions and everybody else kind of keep quiet so we can hear his answers.
If you want to pull up amendment 28, it spells out those three roads that are there.
Those jack pines?
See, I told you, I was clicking on these, I was
I
getting.
don't know what it is.
more, and then
I don't know what it is between Williamsburg and Supply. On the other side, it's Red Horse.
There's jack pine in there somewhere. Looking.
They're talking about. way down
Millbrook,
here.
and he's way down here.
Yeah, right there.
That funny thing. Okay. I'm with you
So,
now. I was
this-
Small enough.
If I'm understanding him right, this would be Supply, this would be Williamsburg Road, and this would be that gravel road.
East-west on that gravel.
Yeah,
Oh,
and it comes out where Dead Horse Road and Angling Road.
Yep.
Yeah.
Are on the other side.
take my side by side down there a lot.
Yeah.
I just came to a meeting on it.
Roads would be useful.
Huh, so they labeled that a what? Commercial?
Yes. C1.
Oh, I need to start a convenience store.
Okay, so that's one of several
that-
problems.
Yeah, let's serve coffee.
Is that
and
part of
donuts.
state property or? Do you know if that's part of state property there?
Don't know.
It would be useful
Looks
to
like there's
have
state
road.
all the way around
Could
it.
have been subsequently bought by the state too, I don't know. Okay, so, I mean, we're not gonna solve all the problems
Nope.
here tonight, but if we could identify,
Yeah, so do we
Good.
have like an itemized list of the inconsistencies or the kind of the surprises on here?
so number 22, right by the shoreline there, or not 22, but section 22 on Elk Lake shoreline. That shows a commercial space.
Or is that a PUD?
That's a PUD.
That's a
for,
PUD for the state.
that Store palace.
Palace, Place Room?
Place trust
Yeah,
the
that's
place.
that condo. That one is.
Yeah.
But not on not on our regular maps.
Yeah, it's on your map also. It's just a plain, see.
Yeah, it's on the regular map.
Where'd you get that?
I handed it out at one of the meetings, I think in April, maybe.
Then, section 17, kind of in the southern half there, there's a mark there, is that something? Is
This
that-
here?
Yeah,
17?
section 17.
South of the highway,
The 17, yeah. to
the
south.
17 to the south.
That-
Oh, up here? Yeah, that's the mobile home thing. No, that's just a note for the yellow
Oh, no,
R1.
no, I was referring to down here.
The
Mobile home district.
black and white
Yeah,
stripe.
that's a mobile home park zoning. That's still in place.
Was removed.
That was
Well,
the other
it's
map.
on this map and this map. That's the fact.
Yeah, it's
But,
We're-
but he says he can't find an amendment removing it. So, so if
Right.
if he can't find an
That's why I'm
amendment,
saying
then
still there.
it's there.
it's still there, right?
That's my
That is
point.
still on this thing also.
Was that repealed, Ken?
It's a point of order. The discussion is here at the table. Thank you.
There was, one other inconsistency I noticed. RC that's north of the highway here, where your map only had the south side of the highway.
The what
In
section?
Section 3,
Okay.
the brown color on your map for the, EOPUDA is what they're calling that.
That's section 3.
Hard to see on a township map because it's so small, but township map shows this square as being the commercial PUD, but it doesn't show this piece up here. So that's
Right.
one of the inconsistencies. I found.
Right, okay.
And I can certainly, I didn't prepare for this, but I can certainly put that together, a report of any inconsistencies I can find.
I think that's what we need, right?
I think that would be very helpful.
That's what we need.
With
Yes.
streets on there?
Yeah.
I'll look into the
You can overlay the street.
the guys at the county GIS or we'll
Yeah.
talk to them and see if they're willing to share some more.
So we were looking for the streets and also the property lines. Right.
Those are the major, inconsistencies that I found. Really not very many.
Can I ask one other question here? The yellow residential that goes along the creeks, what's the distance? Is that from the
300 feet.
300 feet from the center line of the ordinary high water?
From the water?
Yeah, on the water, right? Yeah, 300 feet from creek. And up at this lake, it's 1,000 feet. And along
It's different.
the lakes, it's 1,000 feet. It's just the creeks that was 300 feet each side. But 1,000 along all the lakes and ponds.
Which makes most of that property undeveloped. I mean, 300 feet from the creek, when you're talking, any of these cliffs here, that's all wetlands, that's all down the bottom. They're 300 feet, you're just getting very few pieces that's gonna have any highlight on it.
So I thought that this yellow for next to the creeks and the waterfront was R1 residential. I thought that's what it meant.
Yes.
I know
Yes.
there are setbacks
Right.
also,
But
in addition, but
yeah.
you're just saying a lot
I'm,
of it.
I'm
is
just saying a lot of
wet.
is gonna be it's too wet. And I know in our master plan, there were people made comments about bringing back some of 27 to protect that stuff.
Right.
If you were to go walk these places, you would see that nobody's gonna be allowed to develop. Like the vast majority of any of that on the creeks, not along the lakes, but on those smaller creeks, it's too wet down in there. The only little high spot behind me across the creek, they tried to get it to perk years ago and they couldn't find a single spot. So it's not gonna happen in those areas.
right, so is the plan here, to have Scott, create a detailed list that includes, section number and a list of the area of
Yes.
inconsistency? And then also create this map to include, similar to this, the parcel overlay and the
Current
road
parcel layer.
overlay.
Yeah.
So you can see it
So then,
And send us an Adobe file that we can blow up.
and send
ourselves.
us the Adobe, because even though I've got this PDF here, it gets a little grainy when I blow it up, like the one that was in the packet.
then I would also mention that we had that issue with the industrial district that we found before.
Oh, yeah, tell us about that.
Well, that's, maybe you can,
Yeah.
the industrial
What-
zoning district. we-
Yeah, what
we
did you
had hired you
determine?
before to review that legal description, and there were problems with that.
Yeah, it's just, it's not really well described. I'll talk about these and how we kind of cut through some property.
Yes.
Yeah, and it, like so often happens in surveying, they describe one from this direction and then you describe the other one from another direction and you got a gap, you know? But to me, I mean, it doesn't take much to see the intent was for it to connect and not be a gap there, so I didn't really show that on this map. But discussion about it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm looking at this and I don't see
Don't see a gap.
a gap between those two blocks, but then there is this little stray gray block a little bit to the right, embedded in that.
In that little.
And that's trying to, and that's just it, these two descriptions, different bearing bases, you're trying to piece it together and it's really just a way to describe it. But I think the intent was for it to be right up against it. Why it cuts through the middle of the property, I don't know. I mean, that seems kind
Yeah.
of odd too.
I thought it was more than just a little gap. It was a little bit more than that, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, I don't remember the number, it's a significant amount of feet, yeah,
Yeah.
15 feet or something.
So Randy, wasn't the township board looking at this question? Like they were the ones that started this to
Well,
explore that
No, I think,
question?
I think, I think we started it. I mean, or I did. I mean, I guess I look at the fact that there's legal descriptions, which is pretty rare anymore that anyone would do that in the
Mhm.
first place. So most places rely on a zoning map that shows you all the parcels and identifies where zoning districts are based upon that.
So your concern was the line was going through a parcel.
Right.
It
And,
wasn't
and
that the district wasn't sharing the property line.
that we relied on legal descriptions, which unless you're a surveyor, you don't read. So then somebody produced a map, somebody produced several maps that we've been using. And so the idea is to get to one map that is approved, and then any amendments thereafter are listed, and we changed one map. We don't change legal descriptions.
Yes, but isn't there a problem though with that property owner then, in that case, with that industrial property? I mean, is there an issue there that has to be rectified? with
That's
the
what I
owner?
wonder, does the property line follow the gap in the zoning line? Are there any property lines that follow that gap?
I think the industrial one had an issue with that. I can't remember offhand.
Yeah, there was an issue here with it not following the property line. It wasn't really associated with the gap. Changing the gap or fixing the gap,
Right.
we'd still have a problem.
But if
Not
there-
matching up with property.
But for instance, if there was a gap in a property line and that fell in a district, like a commercial district, would there be some kind of legal problem with that? Because
I would think there is.
evidently, nobody owns the 15 feet that you're talking about in between.
Everybody will claim it. That's mine.
You know,
I mean, and I understand we don't have that problem, but just looking forward to what we're looking at and the information you will give us, can that become a problem?
Can I make a comment there? I think that these are legal descriptions on our zoning map, not property lines.
Yeah, yeah,
So if somebody does own that 15 feet.
Yeah.
right. I'm
It's
just
just-
saying a what if something like, cause those gaps happen in property lines too. Okay, so in a district maybe not a residential district isn't so important, but a commercial or industrial district, does this create a problem if there's a gap in the property lines? Even though the zoning is okay, I guess it doesn't make a difference.
Well, it
I
seems
think
to
it's
me it
fixed.
causes a problem if the owner wants to do one thing or another, that it
Yeah.
causes an impediment. I would think that we have to fix that.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the whole point
That's
of
the
the
point.
separate
That's the point.
PO
Yes.
that the township board issued. I thought a separate PO to Scott to ferret out that.
And that's what he's
specific issue.
done here. We just need to finish this up and we'll have a zoning map. And then the zoning map replaces the legal descriptions.
But then who gets the action to work on to fix the zoning map relative to the property owner? It seems to me that there's an issue there with. the
And
property owner.
that will bubble up when we can put them together, when we put the property lines together with
Okay.
this map.
Okay,
And we'll,
right.
ideally, the property owner's interest would be to square it up with their property lines and not have this silliness where we have,
Mhm. Right.
arbitrary surveying lines that are cutting properties in half, which we already have through hundreds of properties with this 300-foot mixture off of creeks and stuff, which
Right.
is, as we pointed out in the master plan, is wrong and should be changed.
Okay,
And those are pretty hard to identify. I mean, like, especially to just have a map that you can pull up in front of somebody. You know, I'm trying to get them off of Google Earth and some of these creeks get pretty small and pretty hard to see.
Right.
So I can give you a general idea where they are, but when someone comes in with a zoning question, they're gonna have to go out there and survey it and measure it.
And even the old topo maps,
Oh, yeah.
it's not correct.
No.
The draw, where they draw the water in isn't correct.
So at the end of the day, the township planning commission, the town board should clearly be able to show how properties are zoned.
okay. So the question I have, Scott, is when can we have you back to review your list and with the
Forward
revised?
these issues and the updated map.
Yeah.
When's the next meeting?
It's July 10th, I believe. Is that good for you?
Yeah, I can do that.
Oh, great. Thank you. And if you could make sure you send us that PDF ahead of time.
Okay.
Be really nice to have it at least.
Expandable.
Yeah,
Yes.
one that
When I
you can.
sent you, you're zooming in, it's getting blurry.
Mine-
Just
mine-
looks like this.
Mine's fine, but I have an iPad and you can just.
Mhm. Yeah, I did notice hers looked better than mine. Apple.
Yeah, just, it's all in the fingers.
Yeah.
But you
I'll
make,
check it, but I sent
That's
it.
why I switched,
Yeah.
because I can't see this, but I can go
Okay.
like this.
Okay. All right. So we will have Scott back. Any further questions for Scott? And that'll have all the property boundaries and the roads. Okay.
That will help a lot.
Brenda, can I see that map and make a copy of it, please? Or at least see if I
Yeah, at
can
the end of the
outline
meeting,
it.
yes. Not now. Okay. Next item on the agenda is back to the master plan draft revision. So that starts on page 30 of your packet. Thank you, Scott. Did I give the wrong page for this? Master plan draft revisions. I think I might have given. I guess, yes, that is correct. Page 30. So this is where Randy provided an exhaustive list. And you do have new copies of the master plan?
And they were distributed at the meeting last week.
Oh, is there one sitting around for me to pick up?
Yeah.
That'd be great.
A new improved binder.
Oh, yeah. The no fall apart. Okay, so there's a lot of pages here. Before we get started in this discussion, I'm wondering, do we want to allow the outreach committee to interact in this discussion? So that's a question I'm putting in front of the PC, because we
believe
have
so.
several
I-
members.
I believe so too.
Yes, I
Okay.
agree with that.
Do I need to say all in favor here? Do we need a motion for that?
Yep.
Okay, we're all in agreement?
General-
All right, good. Okay, so do we want to have maybe PC members first voice any, questions, concerns, comments?
I guess I would just like to say it's very professional. He said, I think we can all be proud of.
So it might be confusing though, there's page numbers changed and adding material, so just be careful as you're
Yeah.
looking at them.
then this-
The old page numbers and new page numbers.
Then this will have the new map, correct?
That is a new map. That is a slightly improved map.
With the
Slightly
new map that
improved.
we will be part of this one.
No, and in fact, I'm glad you brought that up. I could jump into that issue. But one of the things on that map we've been guided by the zoning ordinance with that map. And as we know, there are some potential issues in here, so I'm hesitant to fully endorse the future land use map when we know we have zoning issues here. So.
So is what you're saying, the intent for the master plan would to be used this more general map?
Yeah, so that's a future land use map, and if we could, can we talk about that for a moment?
Sure.
If that's all right. So the future land use map is a required element according to the Michigan Planning Enabling Act. It says that you've got to provide a picture of how you expect the township to develop over the planning horizon. So it's for the most part following your zoning ordinance, but it intentionally doesn't include property lines. We're not trying to duplicate the zoning ordinance. I collapsed a few things together and it's similar, but it's basically showing the existing zoning is basically what we think our future land use map is. We're not going and zoning more areas commercial. We're not zoning more areas residential. The master plan is saying that we're not frozen necessarily, but we're not showing any new areas for growth and development according to the future land use plan. For example, if somebody came into the township and said, hey, I've got 20 acres up on Elk Lake Road near Cram, and I think that's a great place for a new commercial building. And we would look at our future land use plan and say, well, that doesn't really conform with our future land use plan, and so we have a reason to turn it down. That would be a good, solid reason not to approve a rezoning like that. That's the intent of the future land use plan, to basically say this is how we envision our township growing and developing. There's lots of areas that are zoned commercial, lots of areas that are zoned residential that could accommodate more development, more homes in the residential areas, more commercial development in the commercial areas. I think there's even some vacant industrial spaces that we have. So.
Could we mention that in here, that for a more detailed zoning map to see the zoning?
I think that's a comment that Linda made at a prior meeting as well, that there isn't a description of the current zoning ordinance in here because of some of the problems we have with it.
But should we mention that? Because we will have a new one, right?
We will. Yeah, in fact, we're gonna talk about it later.
So maybe we should mention that in here, that they can go from here to the new zoning.
You basically saying that this is like a overall guidance and
Yeah.
for the most up-to-date map that would show parcels.
Right.
It
See
would
the
be,
zoning.
it would be a different tool. So it's basically saying, don't use this picture to make a final determination on a parcel.
Oh, for sure.
It's like a
No,
big picture
There's
map.
intentionally no property lines on
And this
that.
is and this
Right.
is the.
That's the zoning ordinance and the zoning map will be the legal tool that you regulate land development with. The master plan and the future land use map is what you use when you're considering changes to it.
Mhm.
So this future land use map, leaving out this little triangle at the end of Williamsburg Road would be desirable if we don't want to see a
Right.
gas station there
In the future.
in the
Right.
future. Right.
I guess I didn't even know that that was there, quite honestly, when we were looking.
Yeah, I
at
neither did I.
it. So,
That's the first I've ever heard
I
of
was thinking
it.
of going into business with Michael, gas station and donuts and milk.
I don't know if this is going down a rabbit hole, but it's a question I have. So for that parcel, if that's owned by somebody, we just say, well, we changed our minds, we don't want it to be a,
Commercial? Not without legislation.
No, we'd have to-
Legally.
well,
Basically have to.
and that's what I'm saying. I mean, is that something that we can even,
That was
Yeah,
the
well, right, yeah.
if it's
we'd have to-
currently zoned that, we'd have to unzone it that and zone it something else.
Right.
well, so that would be like, it'd be a public notice, and if they had issues with it, they could come and talk. Okay, I see, I get it now. Sorry.
It would be a planning commission decision. And you could actually do that when you create a new zoning map for the township. You could leave that off. Not sure you want to do that without telling them, but, that would be the way to correct that. And to correct other problems in this zoning map, but we're just discovering what they are.
So could you have, when we go to adopt this new zoning map, we then also have the public hearing at that time for that? So that we can all do it in one big spell swoop?
I would hope we can do that. Is that future land use map gets people confused sometimes, but that's really what it's about, is showing you how the future land use. So then if, like I said, if somebody proposed commercial zoning on Elk Lake Road, you know, north of Cram or somewhere, or, you know, or off of Palastrum or something, you'd say, no, that doesn't conform with our land use plan. Our future land use plan. We show that agricultural. And it's staying agricultural unless we would amend our master plan to show otherwise.
Thank you.
I understand clearly. Do you want us to wait until we get this map, the zoning map completed before we do any approval of the master? Or is that going to be part of the 63-day comment period?
That's another discussion item. I don't know how you feel about that. If you want to let this go forward, as I said, the legislature didn't do us any favors when they created the Planning Enabling Act, because they built in this process that says we have to send it to adjacent jurisdictions. We have to send it to the township board. The township board approves its distribution. The township board then also has to say whether or not they want to exercise their authority to approve it or not. They don't have to. So, but you've got 2 months built into this approval process that is only related to sending it to adjacent jurisdictions. Then there's also a public hearing required from the Planning Commission before Planning Commission acts. So we sent along last month that whole scope of things here. So
I think kind of trying to draw this conversation together, when I look this map that we've all been hauling out here and looking at, generalized future land use map, is in chapter 7. I don't think this current zoning map or some facsimile of it is inside the master plan. That's what he's saying. Okay. All right, so there's almost appears that continuing to work on this doesn't stop the new master plan with the land use.
the only thing
map.
that's required according to the Planning Act is that there be a zoning plan that says how we intend to change the zoning map and the zoning text. And that's all that's all listed in there.
Okay,
Isn't it a good idea to put the new map in the master plan? That should be, so it shows it's right there, shows what is current.
I don't want to put a wrong one in there.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
the new one, he just
When
built.
that's done,
Yeah, when he's done. Yeah, when he's done. That's
So
this.
what you're saying is you would suggest that the correct map.
Goes in the master
In.
plan.
And if it
Also.
takes another month, it takes another month, but the
Right.
package is complete.
Right.
And together, I'd rather get it done
But-
I think we all, I'd rather get it done like we'd like to see it, rather, if it takes another month, it takes another month, but it's right.
Yeah, once we
But-
get the right map, it seems to me like.
Do you
it should
agree,
be in there.
Randy?
But the planning commission can't just wave a magic wand and say the zoning map has changed. That's a zoning amendment that requires,
As a zoning amendment in and of itself.
right.
And so I think what you're saying is there's a process that goes with that, so you can't just slip it in the book.
But I thought I thought we were changing, I'm missing something here. I thought that, we are changing the legal description to the map. That's now because now our districts are legal descriptions and nobody knows how to figure that out. None of us. Okay, so I thought the reason we're having the map made is so that we don't have to
Right,
read legal descriptions.
we are.
So there's another there's another step to the process?
So to have that zoning map approved, that actually is a zoning change that needs to go through the process of the planning commission and township board acting on that. You also don't, I mean, that map is not part of the zoning ordinance. That map is something that was done, from what I understand, by someone, two interns 15 years ago or 10 years ago or whatever.
Okay, but I'm not talking about that map. I'm talking about that map when it's done and corrected. So,
Okay.
so that still needs to be a part, turned in. So can we leave a page in the book that says, when we have a correct map, this is where we'd like it?
Sure.
I'd like to see that happen.
I would too.
Okay.
That way there's no confusion.
But what is the goal? Are you just trying to get this master plan approved with a soon?
You could do it either way. You
No,
can wait till that
yeah,
map's done.
But, yeah, but that's what I want to know. Are we going to do two processes? One to do the zoning overlay general map, which would be the future land use map, which is kind of generalized in here? Or do you want to correct it? Some of these items that that are like a commercial parcel in a R3, you want to correct it as a separate process and hold up the master plan?
I think we're getting a little confused. I don't think the zoning map belongs in here. Zoning map is separate. The zoning map is part of the zoning, the zoning piece that we're doing here. This is what we'd like to see us do in the future. This is, tell me if I'm wrong.
You're right. It doesn't, the zoning map does not have to be in there.
I think if we just mention that you want to see a corrected, or if you want to see, I think you worded it really good just a minute ago.
Well, I look at this as current state, like when I read the table of contents, present condition of Whitewater Township. I
Exactly.
would think that this belongs in there.
Exactly, because we have historic and present conditions.
And it's really a reference document.
Right.
I mean, we could probably debate this all day. You might be able to just, since we've published this on our website, you could put reference.
It's on the website now.
Is it on the website? I have to double check.
It
When I printed this, there's no thing on the top saying, the date or anything. Like there's nothing there. But anyway, I guess the question is if it's used for reference. Go ahead. Sure. Yeah, so we can hear, or you can talk real loud.
I was gonna, Keith just voiced what I was thinking, which is that there's sort of two different things going on here. But if you do want to include the zoning map, then maybe you change it so that it's the same level of detail as the future land use. So that way, because I think if you include the corrected zoning map, you get into the delay, you get into the legal part, which is you can't suddenly change the zoning that on a piece of property that somebody's bought with the understanding that it has a certain zoning label to it. And so if you do it without putting in like maybe without the property lines or something, just the same, so that then it really is just kind of a general reference piece instead of the zoning ordinance, which as an architect I use as a tool, right? That's the first thing I do is go into the zoning ordinance, which is hopefully correct and online, so that I can double check what right? So I can check my client's property, what the current zoning is. And I'm not sure that people that are looking at the master plan need to be able to get into that level of detail. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I'd like to point out that just my thinking behind this is one of the things in the federal government we did was we never put the same document out there in two different locations. You reference it. So you have an original document and you always reference that original document. You never put it out here and then put it out here, because then you have to try to keep it up everywhere.
Yeah.
So if you have one original document, this is the only one we're ever gonna look at for zoning, and then you just reference that. And any other document you want it in, you reference, if you wanna see this, go here.
Are you saying, Keith, just put a reference on this and call it good?
Yep.
No,
Okay.
I think what you're saying is, this is the future land use map.
Right.
This would be in chapter 3 as the current zoning map, but taking off what Renee said, this would be a more granular view, maybe remove the property lines so that it is of the granularity of this.
Yeah.
So I don't
Does
think we
that
can
make
do
sense?
that though.
No, I would just say, I
Or
would
you
just
don't want
reference
to
it,
do it.
because you never wanna put the
Or you're
same.
just saying, you tell them you have to go somewhere else to look at
Yeah,
this.
because we don't want that to be the document. We don't want that to be the document in here.
But this might constantly change is the only problem.
That's right.
That's why
So
don't
you
put it
keep
in there.
one document that you change, instead of having to worry about, well, we changed that document, now this document is.
Yeah, this is a 5-year plan.
Because,
Right.
so in 5 years, you can, in here, in that location, say, if you wanna see the more detail, go to the ordinance.
Put a reference right on this map, and that'd be a great idea.
And that way, this will never be outdated, according to that map. because
Yeah.
You are going to,
I was
The
just
new-
kind of envisioning that you would make like a permanent picture, so not a queryable document, but you would have a picture of this is how it was in 2024.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was thinking, is it
Mhm.
becomes just a reference and just only a picture, not I don't know. What do you think, Randy? Are we way off in the
No,
weeds?
it's not, I can't change that map. That's just the PDF of that. I don't know
Okay.
how they produced it. I don't know who produced it. And I'm
Right.
not sure when. So all I have is that image.
So is it damaging or misleading to do that?
If we know it's
If we
wrong,
put
why
a
do we wanna
date.
put it in there?
Because
Yeah.
I think the granularity of wrong is unreadable.
Can you speak?
Well,
easy-
let's just put the right one in there when he gets the corrections made, or reference. This is the map, and then you can tell him where to reference our zoning map.
But you would have to say, this is as of. So I guess the question is, should it be in there, yes or no? And if so, should we wait for
My
in
cor-
hopes of a
My
correct,
thought would be to have it not in there and just leave it.
tell
yeah.
people to go find the
And
zoning?
then the master plan can go ahead and be adopted. The zoning ordinance may take a little bit longer, but I don't.
I'll be honest with you, the guy looked at these, there's not much difference. There's really not that much.
There isn't.
No, but they are not. And one was based off the other because that's all we had.
Right, I know. All I'm saying is it's not like there's a huge gap of information by not. I'm just trying to understand, are you really hurting the usefulness of the document by not having that? No.
I don't think you are.
Why would we wanna put it in there if we know it's flawed?
No, we don't put that one in there. I know she keeps referencing that one, but if we put one in, okay, we put the new one that he's making us. And at this moment, we can't put it in, but what our option is to leave a page for it when we have it. Which will be some months down the road after this is put together. But in my understanding, this is a changeable, flexible, moving document. Okay, so even this map,
I don't think.
No.
even, it is. If-
Every 5 years.
Every
years.
5 years,
Yeah.
it's gonna change.
Yeah.
It changed from the last time we did it, it's changing this time, it's gonna change next time, it's a
10
moving.
years instead of 5.
Okay,
Yeah.
so someday this map isn't gonna be current either.
Yeah.
Okay, someday there's gonna be agricultural land that goes feral and somebody's gonna wanna do something with it. And there's gonna be some variance made somehow, some way to make it happen. So this is changing too. And, I think because in the beginning of the book, we have a chapter that says present conditions of Whitewater Township. To make this as complete as we possibly can, we need that. Cause it's what we have now.
I think if we just reference it.
Well,
Then we don't
I
have to-
understand where, I do hear your argument about that, but I don't know, I am a black and white person and it says present conditions. I think I should be able to find the present conditions in this book. Cause I'm not gonna go to your computer. And maybe I'm the last person on planet Earth that ain't gonna do that, but I doubt it.
So let
Not
me ask
either.
the question, I've heard a lot of talk here at the table. Is there anybody else from the ROS that has, anything to say on this topic? Not to put you on the spot or anything, but anybody else? So I think that,
I'd rather
Just-
say this, is that.
Up to the microphone.
I read the master plan as there have been individuals that have looked back and said, in your master plan, you had this, this, and this.
Mhm.
But then you came back and said, no, wow, you went to the wrong document. We changed, the zoning map is now different than that 5-year-old master plan.
Mhm.
I'd be pissed. Because I read the master plan. That's what she said in the master plan. Now, I didn't read the caption that said, as of today, but that's what it was in the master plan. So if it has the potential of being changed, I don't think it should be in the master plan.
Well, and if we reference it on here that refer to this,
Exactly.
then that would take care of
But
it.
the rules say we gotta put this map in, and someday this map's gonna change.
5 years,
In 5 years.
In 5 years.
then we can put the same spin
So-
on it.
Alright.
With the whole document's updated, then you can't
Yeah.
just change
Well,
one map.
right, and then so the map changes.
Yeah.
But that map is for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
That's what that.
6 years later, we'll have a new
I'm
map.
done.
All right, so I think the best way to resolve this is, it seems to me the question in front of us is whether to include a physical map of the current zoning in the master plan book. Or the other option is to just provide a reference that says, go to the township website for the current zoning map. But keep in mind, if somebody goes in there 2 years from now, and if the map has changed, they may not be able to locate what it was at the time when this was issued. I mean, I think I see both sides of the argument. I feel like it's probably appropriate at this point to vote, because I think otherwise we're just running around the bush.
Well, I'd like to just say one thing, if I can. You have to look at who needs to look at that map to see what they can do. So if you go on the township website, it's under the zoning. It's under the zoning administrator. So I would like to ask Deb her opinion, because that's the first place they're gonna go is her. So are we creating a confusion by putting it in the map? Does anybody mind if I ask you that question?
That's fine.
Yeah.
Are we,
I don't want someone to come to me with a map that was in a 5-year-old master plan and say, well, it says here that I can do this. And I pull out another one that says, well, that got modified and here's a list of the amendments that were done. I understand why really as a planning commission, you could look at your master plan every year. And if you wanted to add or amend something and put a different map in, I've seen 5 or 6 maps that have been added where critical dunes were, or where high risk erosion, or or changes or how a village has evolved over a period of time. So you could make that, add that map in a year, once you clean up all of your zoning ordinances and get a good map too. But my map is gonna be whatever is on the website that's supported by the zoning ordinances, and your zoning ordinances have to support your master plan. So it's one big pie. So if you put out a map that isn't supported by those zoning ordinances, it doesn't do me any good. So,
So it has I think what I'm hearing you say is having a map in here that potentially could be dated, because this master plan, they say you're supposed to update it every 5 years, but our track record's not that good. And so if it ages, especially if it ages longer than 5 years, this map could be different and it could mislead people.
well, as long as you put a date on it, and this is what it was as of this date, then you have to go and review every single amendment that's been done to legislate changes to that map. So as long as but that's gonna be in your zoning ordinances, it's not gonna be part of your master plan. So the changes to that zoning map, there needs to be a master zoning map all the time, and it's gonna evolve every year. You're gonna have splits, you're gonna have combinations, you're gonna have, PRDs, PUDs, site plan condominiums. The county is gonna only update their files, their GIS, once a year. So it's an evolving thing all the time. I'm seeing land divisions in this township almost every week. So properties are getting larger, they're getting smaller, they're getting split up. So it's just it's a caption in time. It's just being captured at one moment in time. So whether it's in there or not.
Has a date. That's when it was done. You don't keep updating it. It's done, finished until you update it. If you need to know what's going on in the township today, you have to go to the appropriate map that would be here. It's not the same. Once
And
it's
where's
put,
that map gonna
you
be?
put it aside.
On
People
the
use
zoning
it,
administrator's website.
but you don't keep changing it.
Yeah, version date is what you're thinking, right, Carl? Yeah.
Yeah, I've got the old one. People haven't in the last 10 years been going in every 3 months and changing the pages in it. It's not finished. You're trying to do that. Now, yes, there's change and you can change the master plan for important reasons, but you don't change it every time you have a little zoning change or split the properties. That's got nothing to do with it.
So the question again comes down to, do you
Just put a date on it,
visual
stop.
with a reference date, reference only, dated whatever date? Do you put that into chapter 3 as a reference document
I wouldn't.
in a permanent? I'm just saying, I'm not saying that these are the two things I hear people saying.
Yeah.
Put it in here as a picture, reference document, see this place for the current zoning map. And that way they can compare it to the future land use map. So that's choice 1. Choice 2 is you have a blank page that says, this is where you find the current zoning map. Two choices. So you have a snapshot in time, you label it as such, versus you put nothing in there and you put a reference for the zoning map, go to this place.
And you just brought up a point I never even thought of. That visual, like, I get more out of a visual than I do all the words in this book, because I struggle reading, okay? So, to look and go, oh, this is what it was like, and this is what they want to see. You can look in this book and see the difference, the change we want to make.
Okay, so does somebody want to make a motion for a decision on this, or do y'all want to think about it?
I think to help Randy keep us going forward, we just make a decision on it.
Probably the best move.
Wait for Carl.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we'll wait for
Yeah.
Carl, I'm sorry.
I would just like to say, I don't think that
I don't know if they're gonna decide to change.
just putting, go see the reference here in a blank page is what I'm talking about. Talking about where it references, anywhere where you reference the zoning map.
It
is
has
where
to say
It
that.
has to say, please go see this location to
Yeah.
see the.
Please go to the
zoning."
website for,
Right.
Designated
For an
location.
updated
Not a blank
version.
page that makes it look like
We didn't do something.
do our
And
job.
I would agree with that, like, one of the biggest things they do typically is some kind of a watermark that's gonna say reference only, and to try and make it real clear, don't go making 10 copies of this and putting them all over the place, right?
Sometimes does it say that?
So, you know, it's not, this may not be valid at this time. Please see, this was a snapshot in time or something like
Right.
that.
Put the date on it.
And that's why it goes in chapter 3. I mean, we're not putting it side by side.
But then we're not talking about the new one. We're talking about the one we have now.
Yeah, it'll have to be the old one.
It'd have to be the old one.
Because we
So-
have,
Because that's what we
Because
have.
it's not approved. Go ahead, Randy.
Maybe I have an idea here. So, as I said, the zoning enabling or planning enabling act
Quiet in the room, please.
says,
Here, sorry.
the planning enabling act says that you have to have a zoning plan that describes how you're going to change your zoning ordinance from what it is now to what needs to happen. So that can go into chapter 7, where we talk about the zoning ordinance and we go through the list of changes.
Okay, so you're saying the document could be in either section?
Yes.
3 or 7,
Right, maybe both if you want.
or maybe. Okay,
Or reference to it, either one.
so does somebody have a motion they'd like to make at this point that reflects their point of view on which way to go with this?
Yes, maybe bring us all together. I would make a motion that we would put the document we believe in today is the zoning map with a description on it that this is, for an accurate zoning map, go to the new location of that. Do not use this document for zoning purposes.
I'll second that.
And I suggest we put that in the appendix then, put the zoning map in the appendix and reference it there.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, that's a great
That,
idea.
that might make it a little bit more clear.
Right.
Don't copy this and run all over the place with
Right,
it.
no, I'd amend to that, yes.
we could put draft on it.
I'm not gonna draft.
That's a bad joke. Okay,
The zoning lady saying, no, no, no.
all right.
No, no, no.
Pete, would you like to amend your
Yes.
motion?
Amend my motion to add that it be put into the appendix.
And I'll second that.
And earlier in the book, it would say zoning map, reference the appendix, and also reference how to find the most current zoning map.
Yes.
Yes.
Anywhere I think we mentioned the zoning map, it should be a location of where to find the current stuff.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, would somebody like to second Keith's motion?
I did
You did.
already.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry,
You're
I was
welcome.
right. Okay. And all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Okay. So the motion passes. That's how we'll do it. So Randy, that's clear enough and you'll have it in the minutes as well? Okay, well, thanks for your patience on that, guys. I know that was kind of hard. Okay, does anybody have anything else that we should discuss tonight specifically on Randy's revisions? And I'm including the folks in the room. Anything else somebody wants to?
I just have a question for Randy.
Yeah,
At what point do we take this to get approved by the board for distribution?
Well, it's up to you. I guess, do you want to copy with those corrections in it? And I would mention there's another issue out there, 2 other issues. One is, Dr. McElwee gave me a list of typos that I got from a meeting, put in a pocket and forgot about. So they need to be made here. I think they're all fairly minor in that. I said agricultural bars instead of barns.
No,
Maybe
that'd be
Freudian, I don't know.
That's pretty good.
Like it.
It's things like that, but they ought to be made in there.
So what, the question I guess I have is when could we get a final draft copy? That we
Next
could all
month.
go through one last time.
Next month? That's not much.
okay. All right, approve it.
Yeah, in fact, I had motion would sound something like submit the draft master plan with amendments to the Whitewater Township Board for review and authorization to distribute the proposed draft for comment. The distribution list is all the entities we notified when we started this. And in addition, the Whitewater Township Planning Commission requests that the Township Board formally act to assert its right or not assert its right to approve the master plan in accordance with MCL 125-3843. So that's the motion if you're.
Is that the motion that Al originally drew up a few months ago? Or is this a
I don't-
different one? Because Al had a draft. Am I right on that, Al?
I don't
Few
know.
months ago? I think you did
Yeah, I
that.
don't know where.
Okay. All right, so maybe if you could get that to me, Randy, so I can integrate it into the packet. So sounds like what I'm hearing is, Randy's got some small corrections. If anybody notices anything else small, let him know. And then we'll bring it back for, he'll get us a final review prior to the next meeting.
And bear in mind, there's a public hearing required before planning commission adoption after if the town board could send it back to the planning commission with request for corrections or changes or whatever, or they could approve its distribution and then assert its right to approve it before it's done. So there's a couple of different twists and turns, and we gave you that list last month or month
Yep.
before.
But
So
the
it's-
next step is for us just to vote on whether we're ready to forward
Yes.
it to the township board for their review. And they have to give approval to distribute it
Yep.
to the community for the 60-day review.
Right.
Okay, so is that clear to everybody? So you get final corrections, and I think in the meantime, if you notice something, if you're reviewing it in more detail, let Randy know. And he'll have that final version to us, and there will be a motion in the packet for next month to vote on approving it, to forward it to the board. Good?
When is the July board meeting?
Tenth, I think you said?
Second Tuesday.
That's okay, so it's the 9th.
So it's before our meeting. So it would
Oh,
go to
there's-
them the following month. Okay. Any further comments on that, or are we complete with that?
So you just take my correction straight to Randy instead of Pablo here.
I think that's okay. Is that right? That Michael's got a couple little corrections? Okay.
Let me ask another clarifying point here. Is it okay to have it posted again like we did and copies brought to the meeting, or, I mean, we can do either one, I guess, but I just want to know you probably don't want to see the whole document in your packet, which,
Correct. I mean, I personally, for something like this, prefer a paper copy, and I know I feel kind of bad about the trees, but,
no,
I gotta have
we
it
did,
here.
they're all dated, so you can tell what's.
Which,
yeah. All right, so
I'd rather
I
kill some
would
trees and be
prefer
clear.
if you can print them off earlier, it's better for me personally.
Okay.
Everybody agree with that?
Yep.
All right, the next agenda item is zoning ordinance update. So that's page 46. Other. So Randy, do you want to kind of give an overview? I mean, I think we all got your memo.
Yep, and that really describes what's kind of calling to a point here, the work that's been going on the last 6-9 months in earnest to move away from zoning ordinance that looks like this. Looks
Oh,
like,
wait.
and looks like
wait,
this.
3 books. Get one more. Okay, we're good.
Oh, I think it's just that, right?
It is, it's the two, with the amendments. So what you have in front of you is, and I gave to Lois to post, is 4 documents, I think. One is the list of amendments as I have them. and it's been updated many times. Secondly is a list of how the new zoning ordinance is reorganized. It
Yep.
goes from 37 chapters or articles down to 22. You have a whole bunch of one provision articles. You have things that are scattered around the ordinance in ways that are unusual. There's no one right way to write a zoning ordinance, but what you have isn't it. I will tell you that.
You're not one of any of those,
Apparently
right?
No, it's not. So, I mean, there's a sequence to it and so, but now what you have is one document that has, I believe, all the amendments in it. There's two versions of it, the clean copy and the one with the comments on it. Thank you to Denise for helping me check the hyperlinks in this whole thing, because there's a couple hundred of them. And I think there's probably like a 700 comments, edits, changes. I tried very hard to avoid changes and just draw attention to things that we need to fix. But we were trying to call this a clarification project. The reason we forgoed making amendments to the ordinance up until now is we really didn't know what the heck the amendments or the ordinance said clearly. You can't, it's hard to amend something when you don't know what you're amending. And there were, like the campgrounds, there were some other issues out there, as you remember. We went through and it was confusing because one part of the ordinance said one thing, another part said something else. There were contradictions in there. And so, anyway, I believe what we have now is a foundation that we can build from. This isn't unique to Whitewater Township. I've done a number of these kind of projects where, you know, the ordinance gets adopted in the 70s, typically, mid-70s. And then they get amended, and then they get, you know, updated, and you really need to go back every half a century and recodify it and reorganize it. And so anyway, I don't believe this is quite done, but I wanted to give this to the planning commission now so you can see what this looks like. I want to go through it one or more times before I think we're ready, then give you a chance to look at this. You'll notice also that all the graphics are in here and they're not backwards.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I don't have to turn it upside down.
And
Mhm.
it's one searchable document now, because you couldn't do that before. There's no more drafts. Well,
Yeah.
it says drafts, but I mean, there's no more, some articles drafts.
Well, now at least
some
there's just
articles
one.
not.
Is it posted on our website now too, or no?
No, it will be, right. I was kind of running up to the limit here for Lois, you know.
Okay, all right, but we are gonna post it. That way we could like test it.
What's that? Oh, yes, you can download it
And I
and
could,
text.
yeah, see if it works the way I think. Okay, good.
There's a couple areas where I still have a couple highlights to come back to. But the other thing too is all the definitions are moved to one place. They were in 4 or 5 places before.
I would
Largely-
add definitions.
They're already added here. They're moved to
I
Article
get it,
2.
but how do you, if you wanted to add a
Oh.
definition that wasn't on here, what's the process?
We would just put it in there. But that's a change, and if you're making
Oh,
a
that's-
controversial amendment,
We gotta have the board here, I forgot.
Okay. So it sounds like, so we've got this all here. You're gonna be placing it on the web shortly, right? Within the
Yes.
next few days? Okay, so our assignment is to take a look-see and come with feedback next month?
yes, please.
Okay,
You'll notice too that Article 3 is new. It calls for a zoning map and zoning districts.
okay,
So the timing is such that we'll have a zoning map. There's no more legal descriptions in here. Everything relies on the zoning map. The zoning map is part of the ordinance.
okay. So they go together.
It is. And
So that would be part of this, basically, whatever we call it, consolidation of stuff along with
yes,
the elimination of legal description and the addition of the map.
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Okay.
And then how do we handle the conflicts? If, in between the zoning amendments? You just make note of them and then that's part of the public comment period?
There's a number of areas where I called out, you'll see in the not clean copy, the marked up copy, that it calls out areas where that section needs work. There's a conflict with another section. My favorite example is the COPUD district, where it says in one section that areas on 500 feet on either side of 72 are zoned COPUD. But then when you approve a project, you rezone property COPUD. It can't be both. That's got to be
So what
fixed.
page are you on for that, Randy? We can see how that looks.
Okay, let me show you Article 6 now. It's
That chapter.
There are a lot of very good standards in here, but I will tell you that, okay, 6.02, current language, the zoning district shall include all lands adjacent to 72 from Cook Road westward to the West Township line, lying 500 feet north and 500 feet south of the center line of 72. Well, then later on in 6.12, it tells you that granting of a planned unit development application shall require rezoning.
So we just leave the conflict in there for,
Yes, well, I am now, I guess, I mean, to get into that would require
any
some
zoning.
effort.
So your point is this is a conflict that was not, I know you eliminated duplication of information in multiple places to eliminate questions, but this is an area where there was not.
It's not an easy
It
fix.
wasn't an easy way to say, yeah, this should be this or this should be that.
It's not an easy fix, I
All
guess
right,
is what
so,
I'm saying.
so that was one of those things, because you said that in your report, that you avoided, you had good words for this, you've avoided any material changes. Yeah. And so that would be one that you would have tagged for resolution after the integrated document with the map is
Yep.
approved. So that would be on the list of things to fix quickly, subsequently, but not muddy the waters with this consolidated document.
Right, because there's dozens, if not more than that,
Okay,
of those
All
kind
right.
of things.
all right.
There's like
What do we,
50.
once we get this, we all are all in agreement, what's the next step? What do we do? Do we send it to the township board?
This is, well, I would also want to send this to our township attorney to make sure that there's nothing. There may be some other areas that he wishes to update as far as the violation section or other statutory things. I don't think there's anything in there complicated legally, but I'm not an attorney, so I would rather.
Okay. But would we have, I thought normally the process is we would have a public hearing.
We would.
And we would need our new map so that
Yep.
we've got him coming back next month as well. So we would need this all together and to have to schedule a public hearing, right?
Yep, this is
If we were
one
going
large zoning
going
amendment.
forward. Okay, but we would need those two things. Okay.
And then to the attorney before the public hearing?
Yes,
Oh,
I
yeah.
hope so.
Yeah, okay, so
Yes.
that's step one.
when we're confident that this is.
Once we get our changes made that we'd like to see.
So we got to get all our documentation, including the map together, attorney review, and then the next steps, public hearing. Any other questions on that?
Public hearing at the PC or the township board?
I believe it's here.
Been in the garage. I just kick it around.
I believe, Randy, the public hearing is here at the PC, right?
And then we would approve it and then it would go to the township board
Correct.
With a recommendation for approval.
and then they would have final approval. Okay.
Just like any other zoning change.
Okay.
Should we bring them in with a special meeting before we go to public hearings or no?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I think we've had enough meetings.
Yeah, I don't,
I'm just saying.
I don't know. You
Okay.
guys are completely able. Is there a different opinion on that around the table? Have an
No.
additional meeting? It seems like just a lot of additional steps.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Moving on to our agenda. Okay. Rule of necessity. I didn't see anything in the packet. Keith, are you ready for that or is that moving
No,
to next
we'll
month?
bring that.
Next month? That's okay.
Yep.
I meant to call you this afternoon. I got on something else. The phone rang. Okay, last item is the paper I distributed to you guys when you came in. That was relative to PC representative on the ZBA. So I think you guys are aware. So it came to my attention that we're not in compliance with our bylaws with respect to it is our job to recommend a PC member for ZBA representation. I listed the bylaws there. The key point was highlighted is that appointment of a PC member to the ZBA is coincidental with their term of service. So there was an oversight at the board level that, and quite frankly, we missed it as well, that when Carl was appointed back in December of 2021, his appointment expired about a year later, and we didn't have a meeting to recommend a representative, and also the township board didn't catch that gap either. So we need to close this gap by making sure that we provide a recommendation to the board for their review. And I did put a note in there, this is just my opinion, is that I think serving as a PC representative to the ZBA is an important role. I think we've seen some activity at the ZBA lately. Prior to this, I wasn't real aware of ZBA activity, but I think it is obviously a critical role and provides feedback to us where people are asking for relief on our zoning ordinance, and we're the ones that are responsible for setting the zoning ordinance. So it is really important that there be a PC member. I do believe anybody that serves in this role has a really good opportunity to grow in their knowledge also. So I think it's good for people to take a turn is what I'm saying. So now with that, I'm opening this up to discussion for who we think would make a good person in that role. What are your thoughts? Al, you look like you got a thought.
You misinterpreted.
He was thinking about ice cream.
That's okay. I was thinking about getting out here. Okay, go ahead, Carl.
I would, originally, about 4 years ago, when I became aware of the position, when they said that we had to have somebody that's required by law, and no one would volunteer for it. Absolutely. They all just sat there and looked at me because I'm retired and I didn't really want it, but I didn't matter. I said, fine, I'll do it. And originally, I dealt with the other three members, and they'd help me alongside. And we don't have very many meetings. There weren't a lot of issues. I think mainly because our zoning officer did a good job. Bob Hall did a good job, and I'm sure Deb will too. But there were things that required us to do it. But as with other things that I got involved with, you needed to grow and learn how to do it. And I read the manuals. Bob Hall gave me some information. I attended several seminars. Some of our board members had also attended those. Then last winter, after this, I was supposed to be appointed last, everybody thought I was, a year ago, in December, I believe it was. I took a course on, became a certified, citizen planner. Later, there was a new ZBA certification course. I took that. And I became much more aware of what responsibilities were. And we've had some meetings, in some cases we did not approve variances, and we shouldn't have. And not everybody was happy with that. But right now, I think I had a meeting with the supervisor, Ron Pop. A few weeks ago, he called me. And he said, well, come on over. We have had a little paperwork screw up and I'll talk to you about it. I get over and he's got this big thick packet with stuff from the Highmark, is it Highmark thing? Saying that, you know, they went through everything and found out that, you know, we didn't appoint the person properly. Okay, I went through, and he said, don't worry about it, just formality, we'll take care of it. Well, yeah, I've been through these things before, I know what that means. They're trying to get rid of me, plain and simple. They don't, some people don't want me on this, doing this. And after I've had all of this training, they don't want me to do it. Okay. Then I called him back a couple of weeks later. I says, wait a minute, even though I wasn't there officially, it didn't change anything because you still had a quorum if you don't count my vote. And the results were the same. But he said, well, that's not the problem. The problem is you say things in these meetings that, and the biggest thing is that we think affect, you know, how the other people vote, the other three members. He said, we think you're unduly influencing them. Well, that's my job. As a representative from here, it's my job to go and work with them. And if there's questions regarding the ordinances, it's my job to explain it. And I haven't done much of that. In fact, I've been relying a lot on their input because they've been there longer than me. And so basically it's a setup. Some of the people over there don't want me involved because of the way we run these meetings fully open. There is no, we can't, we're not allowed to talk. I don't even know the phone number of two of the members. So between meetings, we don't talk to each other. Once we get a packet, we're not allowed to talk to each other. We have to do our own investigation, and everything that is presented has to be presented in the open meeting. We can't have people calling us and giving information like some of them tried to do.
So
So it's up to you guys. If you don't want me on it, fine. I obviously, somebody at the board level wants me off of this, and the opportunity is it wasn't handled properly. I fully intended to do my 3 years, and that'd probably be the end of it. But right now, it's up to you people.
So Carl, thank you for, I think we all appreciate you kind of giving us an outline of what the role involved and what you did in the role. And certainly I thought it was good. It's always good to have a PC representative on there. That's why the bylaws say what they say. So I just want to make it clear, this is our group. It doesn't matter what other people think about this topic of whether to place you in the role again or not. This is a discussion for just these people at this table to provide a recommendation. And so this is an open discussion just amongst us. It doesn't matter what other people think. It's a question of who is willing to serve in this role. We know that they don't have super frequent meetings, but they can be higher profile, as Carl has said. You know, because people are asking to violate the ordinance. That's what a ZBA does.
It's
right?
a tough job.
And it also,
Yes.
I have learned a lot in the last year. It is also a secondary body, just so everybody understands. If we deny something, it goes to the ZBA for a secondary review. And I've read about that a lot in the newspaper about surrounding townships. And so it's important to understand that. So it certainly is maybe more eyes on things at times than what we do on a month-to-month basis. So with that, the question is, and understanding the bylaws that if you are appointed to this, it will be coincidental with your term of office. Okay, so you're not being appointed for 3 years, you're being appointed to the role for your term of office. That's what the bylaws say. So with that, let's talk about who could do this job.
Well, I, for one, like to see Carl stay in the position. He has all the education, he's invested the time and energy, and we've seen through the stuff that's happened that they're making the right decisions. It is a very demanding, I mean, he not only has to understand all the stuff we're trying to understand, he's got to understand the next step when it gets past us. Okay, so I really appreciate the energy and time you put into it, Carl. So I would agree with Linda. Do not let those other people get under your skin. You've done a great job.
I think we're very, very fortunate to have you, Carl, and I really mean that. You've done a hell of a good job at it. You certainly, I believe, you have the support of all of us.
The other
Okay.
three guys, we don't always agree with each other. We respect each other and everybody listens to everybody's point of view. It's all in the open. You can get the tapes of everything we've done. Everything everybody said. It's all in the open. And
I
they're good
would add
guys.
that
Okay, they are
It's
very
good for all of us to be watching these meetings, okay?
I think it would be good to everybody take turns. and
Personal
realize
education.
that it's a completely different thing.
So I do think it's instructive for all of us to watch the process. I think it's a learning experience.
I mean, Carl, I think you've done it for a long time. That's great, but I think somebody else should get the chance also, especially because there's no women right now on that commission.
So, what do you think, Keith?
Well, there isn't. I'm sorry.
Okay, you stated that, that's
When
fine.
is his next term?
Pardon
When
me?
is his next term over?
It's
So next year.
12,
I keep that in mind.
12/25. It's only another year and a
Yeah,
half.
so, if we,
Well, some people are only, could be sitting here
I mean,
only another
I
6
agree with,
months.
I agree with Heidi that if somebody else wants to take a turn, that it's probably good for all of us. There's no way in the world right now I could do it, but if somebody else does, we at least should entertain that.
I don't think
But-
you see anybody with their hand up.
Well, let me
Well,
finish
Denise
there.
only has
You know,
6 months left.
but
She's
my
the
point
only
is
woman
that
could do it.
he's only gonna be there for another year anyways, and then we could take a look at it again, so, I think unless somebody else wants to take their turn, I
So
think.
yeah, currently Carl is in there for another basically 18 months. Denise?
I'm happy with Carl's work. He has invested all that time and energy, and he's probably the most dedicated PC commissioner in all of his training and education, that probably more so than the rest of us. But I think one of the things that we could do better as a PC, if we were cross-trained at some time, being on the ZBA and coming back, we would know the steps that we're missing at the PC. When we deny somebody, we should have on the ZBA, they do the 4 steps, the 4 reasons. And I think that would be useful, findings of fact, if we did that during our SUPs or site plans or whatever, that would help when it went to you.
Well, one
You
of
could-
this new program with Michigan State, it's about a 6-week course, about 3 hours each week for the ZBA certification. That is an eye opener. And I would recommend that anybody that gets that job be encouraged or required to take it. It really, you look at the books and there's so many things that people don't understand. We don't have the choice. And too many times we do make decisions we shouldn't. And it's been, in the ZBA, because you just don't know any better, you give.
Keith, you had something you
So
wanted to say?
question, are these meetings taped,
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
videotaped or just
No.
taped?
No.
Yes, they
Yes,
are videotaped?
Hold on, timeout on the field. They have not audio only. I sat and Zoomed the last one because so many people requested it. But, you know, the ZBA was supposed to figure out who was gonna do that and nobody did, just like we have a Zoom person. We nominate, you know, we put somebody in the chair to do that. We're the only committee that has done that.
All right, so what you're
So-
saying is they've only had the Zoom recordings the one time, like the one that was this past winter, is that correct?
No, I
They've
think,
had Zoom recordings right up to and including the last one.
right, yeah, I did the last
But
one.
Mhm.
Okay.
They, as a board,
Have not made a decision.
chose not to continue with Zoom, just like our chose not to continue
Right.
with Zoom.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
as board of review, not continue. with Zoom.
So the last,
I might finish my question there.
Okay, go ahead,
Um,
Keith.
So it's taped, it's not videotaped.
Mhm.
If more than a couple of us go to the meeting, is that a violation of any sort?
Nope.
So all of us could go to the meeting if we wanted to.
Mhm. As long as you don't discuss or talk, you're there as a private citizen, you're there to learn.
Well, I would suggest that before anybody takes this, that you at least should go to a few of them and watch. And,
No.
you know,
They are only as required. There's supposed to be one every January to, set up our bylaws and to elect our officers. For one reason or another, this last January didn't happen. I kind of wondered why, but I'm
The
not.
only problem
sure.
is, doesn't the member
Okay.
serve at the direction of the supervisor, so we make a recommendation?
So
we're going to make a recommendation.
I guess I would like to ask a question. The only name that I've heard pop up here potentially is, potentially Denise. Could take a turn of that, but honestly, her appointment, expires in December. That would give her a
6
couple
months.
meetings to attend. I know that Denise is careful about making sure she takes training, so I don't have a concern with that. But I'm sure that she's not ready to make a decision about going for a second term yet because it's premature. And then she would have to be reappointed again if she so took that role. So, like I stated in the beginning, I think it is helpful for people that are willing to be given a chance because I think it is a tremendous learning experience. And yes, I know you're in the spotlight and some people don't like that. But I do think it's a tremendous and very just as important as a PC job for sure. A little bit less time demanding. So my question to Denise is, are you willing to be, would you be willing to accept being recommended? I know we're putting you on the spot.
But you might not get that chance again. That's why I brought it to the table.
Okay. Gender aside, I think Carl has been doing a great job. And if he can recommend to the planning commission the way we can make our decisions better and document them better for the ZBA. And also, I think one of the things that I learned is the correspondence portion of the ZBA packet. No one knew that they weren't supposed to contact the ZBA members directly. And
You
it
gotta
wasn't
read the
put it,
Public hearing though.
but
yes, sir.
Okay.
that's a no for me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I think,
was trying
but
to figure that
yeah,
out.
I'm going to say no, but I think that there's things that we could do better. And one of them was where the correspondence for the ZBA, who submits it? Does it go to the zoning administrator and she puts the packet together? That would be the appropriate place to do it. They just didn't know in that one instance that they were, because you can send correspondence to the township board members, no problem, at any time on any topic. But the ZBA is different and they didn't know the difference because it's not written down anywhere. And so some of those things need to be cleared up.
Yeah, but
Did-
you gotta
were-
read the bottom of the public
be-
hearing, but okay.
Before one of our meetings, I thought maybe it was you, somebody called me and asked me, was that you?
I don't know,
But somebody called me and asked me that some people wanted to send us correspondence, and I said, no, you can't do that. We're not allowed to
yeah. I
look at
think I did
anything
do that.
until the meeting.
Yeah,
And I think that whoever the lady was, I believe it was, came into the meeting with, with her letter and read it to us. So,
yeah.
yeah, I was
think-
very clear to her, do not send it to us, but yet,
Yeah,
the Highmores did.
yeah.
They sent it and emailed it, and I know they knew better. They had.
So,
No, well,
yeah,
that's,
I think
you're
we need to
making
get back on
statements that
task
you don't
here.
know where to
So
put
let's
that,
try and wrap this
please.
discussion up. So I think the question was, and I was a little
Let's
cloudy
see
too,
first one.
Denise, Heidi, can we please
Yep.
keep the comments minimized?
Yep.
All right, so your name has been floated out there. Are you willing to be considered for this appointment or recommendation?
no, thank you.
Okay, all right. Is anybody else willing to serve in this role?
I can't, so.
Okay. And Carl, are you willing to serve in the role?
I signed up for 3 years. This would be my last, just like to finish out this term.
Yeah, okay.
And it's a bloody sport, I tell you, it's tough, but I've been lied to. I've had lies told about me, misquoted in the local newspapers. So it's just, you gotta just put up with that.
Okay, so it sounds to me like you are our volunteer, right? Is everybody in agreement that we forward the
Yeah.
recommendation? I guess. Is that consensus here? I'm looking at
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
faces,
Doesn't the
consensus?
Supervisor,
The supervisor has to, put the appointment before the board. We just, we are responsible for having a discussion, which is what we've been doing. Okay. So, but I have a word to say to y'all. Okay. In 18 months, somebody has to step up. And the best people to step up are the people that have
And-
served
and-
for a period of time in this role. And I think, again, we all talked about how it is very instructive, if at all possible, to attend the ZBA meetings. Don't just read the minutes. There's a lot more color to the story. And I think we have, Carl, you have a meeting coming up mid-June, right? I don't even know what it's on.
I haven't
I
been
think-
informed of it. I understand there was, but because my status was,
Okay, I think
But I
I saw it
understand it's what, the
posted.
20,
My computer died, but I saw it posted.
it's June, yeah. And I
Somebody
have,
got their
so.
Heidi can,
Special meeting on the 13th.
thank you.
And I have not given it out to Carl because he's not a legal member of the ZBA yet.
Right.
Okay,
I've been told
What,
to
what time
Okay.
is that?
limit it to the 3 actual
I
members.
believe it's 7 PM,
Okay.
but my battery died.
I will try to attend just so I can be at 1.
7 PM on June 13. Is that a Thursday, Deb? Okay. And Deb, can you tell us the topic?
Is a cabin with non-conforming cabin because it's too close to a river, stream, a creek. And they want to put an addition on that cabin. But they're putting it 50 feet back from the water, but they need a slight variance along the property.
Okay, wow, okay. So they need a variance to the property line. And they're moving it back from the river, but they,
Structure, 4.15 of the zoning ordinance. The additions.
Mhm.
It's on the website.
okay, all right. So, I think it's good that we had this discussion and just notified this body. I mean, this kind of stuff is important, I think. Okay. So, next item. Next meeting is July 10th at 7 PM. we're at the point of public comment. So any public comment in the room?
Trying to debate myself, I really did. Yeah, I'll try to run through things real quick. First of all, I don't think you could find a better volunteer for the ZBA. Carl, in all the time that I served on this board, I have never seen any single individual come through here with the dedication you had to training and to learning your job and to taking it seriously.
Okay.
So I'll give you a counterpoint to maybe some other feedback that you've been given. I will add, findings of fact that a couple people brought up that aren't making it all the way through the ZBA. Ignore anything that someone on our township board or a couple someone's might tell you that we don't need findings of fact at the PC level. We do. Even if we didn't, it would always be a good practice. So when you're putting through special use permits, especially, do the findings of fact. It is critical when it makes it to other stages. If it's questioned, if they want to know why you made the decision you did, you have to have those findings of fact. And we do have a couple board members that try to tell you they're not necessary, they're wrong.
Not me.
When you send the potential revision to the attorneys, I would strongly encourage you to send it with a notation that you're only asking them for things that they think have to be changed immediately. There are a gazillion things they're going to want to change in the ordinance. There's a ton of things that really need to be changed in the ordinance. Most of those things should wait until you go back and do your touch up and your fine tuning and your fixing anomalies.
Kim,
Um,
I hate to
yes.
interrupt you, but does anybody know if there's a problem with the urinal in this room, in this building? Because it won't shut off. And I don't want to see a plumbing problem happen here.
Did you try going like this with the handle? It didn't work.
Pull it in.
I figured you knew, anybody would know what they were doing.
Can you turn off the water?
I don't know where the valve is. I don't know where the shut off.
It's not.
There isn't
underneath
one under the
sink?
under the toilet
I don't see
or
it.
next to it.
Maybe the toilet.
Shut offs might be in Ron's closet next to the water heater. That's the opposite side of that wall.
Okay, go ahead,
Okay.
Pam.
Sorry, I'll try to finish up. The little triangle on your map down here in the bottom corner is state land, so you'll have no problem rezoning that particular one. The little red thing down at the very bottom. The mobile home trailer park and 17 was revised on July 28th, 2017. That district was removed. That should help you try to find, I don't know what the amendment was, but it should have been done on that date with whatever amendment went through on that date. We completely renovated that entire article and that district was supposed to be eliminated with it. I would strongly encourage you when you're going through and fixing your map to contact any property owners if a change is being made. I know most of you can figure that out, but it's just only fair. And I know there's some people that they have been told that their property zoning is something and they've been told that for 50 years. You should at least get their way in on it. Along with that, I would also strongly encourage this board, just based on my experience, put the map through first, not with the rest of the changes in the, not with the rest of the reorganization of the zoning ordinance.
Yeah.
It's going to be very overwhelming for the board to look at that many things restructured and reorganized all at the same time. If you can take it at least in 2 steps, map and then everything else, you'll have half of the issue resolved. And I think my last item, for the life of me, I cannot find the updates of the zoning ordinance map, the proposed one, I don't know if the potential reorganization of the zoning ordinance is online. I have not been able, I cannot find any of that online.
So we talked about Lois is going to post that
Okay.
this week, right?
But I
Lois?
couldn't find the master plan that's posted right now. I couldn't tell if that's the second revision or the first revision. Okay, it's dated, but you don't have the previous revision. So there's no way to look and see version 1, version 2, version 3. I thought that that was the first draft. I did not realize if that is the second draft, it was unclear. And I couldn't find the map at all. So if there's a way you can highlight those more clearly as the things you're working on right now, I had a miserable time trying to dig through and find those things.
So on the map
So-
that he presented today, it was in the packet.
Yes, I saw the map in the packet, except it didn't have half the colors.
It
And there was
missing
no
all the
key.
green stuff.
Yeah, that's what he
So,
said he left.
it was hard.
Just
Yeah.
what we got.
Yeah, well, you got the same thing, so.
Yes, okay, but,
But
Okay.
what we're saying is the current draft, this current draft is online now, right? This is online.
is it? Okay. You don't have the draft before it
This is.
there as well, so, well, it says updated, but
Right, yes.
it's
Okay.
version 2, I believe. It was really hard to figure that. out. So,
Okay, thank you.
all right, thank you very much.
All right,
Fix it.
go ahead. Randy?
I just want to make a clarification there so the planning commission doesn't get misled here. You can't do the zoning map and the zoning ordinance separately because the zoning ordinance has to recognize the zoning map. It's one document, and that's the kind of logic that's left us with this kind of problems that we have. So please understand that the zoning map and the zoning book is
Okay.
one document. There's very specific language in here about calling out what the zoning map is titled, how it's signed, how it's identified, so that we don't have this problem of 6 or 7 maps floating around and no one's sure how the heck property is zoned. So please understand that.
Okay. All right, any other public comment on Zoom?
Nope.
Okay. So any additional PC discussion or comments? Everybody's wore out. Yeah. All right, could I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion to
I'll
adjourn.
second it.
Okay. All right, all in favor?
All right.
Aye. So what's going on with the toilet?
I have no idea.